Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to All for United, and this is the transfer deadline day show. We are an hour and 30 minutes away from this deadline ending. And if you are a Manchester United fan, you are pretty stressed right now. I am your host, Temi, aka Temi Talks United, and with me I have Rob today.
Hey.
And I have James with me as well.
Hello.
And we're gonna be doing a lot of rotation here, guys. So make sure to get in the comments. You're gonna be seeing a whole bunch of different faces, different names, things like that. So make sure to leave your comments in as soon as possible, okay, guys. But I wanted to start off with what has been a pretty busy day just in general. You know, we signed a young kid by the name of Ahmad Traore from Atalanta, 18 years old, 30 million euros with some add-ons. Alex Telles is coming in today officially. The club has announced it. And also Edinson Cavani is coming in. Hasn't been officially announced, but it's been a pretty busy couple of days. If we're being real, it's not what we wanted. It's not enough. But you know, we just have to hope in this last hour and a half we can potentially get that right winger that we've all been really hoping can fit into our first team. Rob, what are your thoughts on the transfer window to date?
Well, for Manchester United, this window was all about Jadon Sancho. So I think for United fans, that's what they've hung their hat on. The 5 players that United have captured throughout the transfer window, they're actually all really good players. So, you know, when you look at the right wing and what United want to do going forward without Sancho, they're bringing in Pellistri and they're bringing in Traore. These are 2 young 18-year-olds with a lot of upside, huge reputations already in their kind of clubs and in their countries, and not cheap signings either. You know, Pellestri's come in at about 7 or 8 million, but Traore, we're talking 30s in terms of euros. So they're good signings, but obviously United fans don't know them, and that's a lot of this. You know, fans need to trust, obviously, the signings coming in, but we might be sat here in a year's time going, Pellistri, Traore, 2 fantastic signings. I think United have to have faith, or United fans have to have faith in that scouting system.
I completely agree that these are exciting signings, Rob. I don't know too much about them. I'll be completely honest with you. I haven't watched Ahmad Traore, Pellistri play. I think Traore has only had 3 games for Atlanta at the top level. It's just, I feel like the feeling for most United fans is, you know, we had this ambition of Sancho the whole summer. It was kind of highly reported. You know, the top guys have been talking about this. Fabrizio over the past few months has continuously been saying talks are ongoing. And then in the last couple of weeks, we saw a little bit of a shift. So now we see their inquiries for Ismail Assar. We're working really hard to see if we can get a Dembele loan, but you know, Barcelona want a permanent deal. I think the big issue is this just feels so rushed and so not planned out. James, I don't know, even though these signings, I agree, Telles is a great signing. Cavani's a wonderful footballer. It just feels rushed. And I think that's where most United fans kind of feel a little let down.
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying. It's a weird scenario because, you know, and without the Sancho the Sancho rumours this year, you think Cavani and Telles and Van der Beek wouldn't have been a bad window, but it's just the negativity surrounding the club and the fact that there's obviously been no planning in that Cavani deal. Otherwise, they would have been trying to snap him up a couple of months ago. And to miss out on someone you've publicly stated as your number 1 target, it's just embarrassing more than anything. You know, I'll go back to what you said in the intro where you said it's been a very busy couple of days, but it's been busy, yes, but has it been a successful couple of days? I think most fans would say no. And that takes nothing away from the fact that we've got Alex Telles and Donny van der Beek for less than £60 million, which is an incredible bit of business by the club, which you don't say very often. But yeah, still a bit disappointing.
No, I completely agree. And guys, we have Abdel and Reese joining us. I told you we're going to be doing a bit of rotation in here. So if you see the the squares on the side kind of go up and down, that's just because we have a lot of great Manchester United fans for this All for United family. And James, you brought up some amazing points. If these deals happened, let's say a month into the transfer window, so we sign Ahmad Traore, very early on in the window. We buy Tellez early on in the window. We're feeling like, wait, there's some momentum being generated, but because we've held back for so long and it feels so rushed, it's so frustrating. So frustrating. There's so many comments coming in, guys. So I'm gonna read some of these real quick. It's crazy, and I usually don't judge players on YouTube videos, but that Traore guy looks like a proper talent. The close control on the boy is crazy. Yes, obviously, when you hear that there's a new signing, the first thing most fans do is they go to YouTube. Usually, very, very deceptive to do that, by the way. But there's nothing wrong with he obviously has talent. I don't think there's no way we're buying a player for 30 million euros at 18 years old, and the kid doesn't have talent. Other teams clearly want him. I'm gonna let Reese join in here real quick. Reese, what are your thoughts of the window so far? Are you pleased with the past couple of days? Obviously, we've signed Edison Cavani. He's a top striker when healthy. We've signed Alex Telles, somebody who's going to be fighting for that left back spot, and he might see time sooner rather than later. And then we obviously have Amad Traore and Palestri. Amad's coming in January. Palestri is going to be another young signing coming in. What do you feel? Are you excited? Are you happy? Do we still need more deals in this next hour and a half?
I think the best way to sum up this transfer window is inadequate, frankly. It's great that we're getting deals done, but these are deals that could have been done months ago. Like, we had a free reign at certain players. Like, we could have, before they signed his new contract, we could have signed Dayot Upamecano. We could have invested in Jadon Sancho. I know that's going to be a concern for people right now. Is, we're not going to sign him. It's going to mean Ollie's getting the sack. It doesn't mean one player is going to lead to a dismissal. But it's a big contributing factor that the manager isn't getting his number one target, especially for a position that we've not been able to nail down since 2009. What I will say is I don't know much about Palestri, so I can't comment on him. But I have seen Traore. I do watch a lot of Italian football. I have watched Traore for a few games for Atlanta. I watched him in the Atlanta Inter Milan game last year. He played against Juventus. He was actually not too bad, considering they're the top two teams in the league. Considerably well. I think he scored a couple of goals. I think it was like one or two he did score, something like that. I think the best thing we've done is we've been able to get a defender in, but we still lack centre-backs, and I think that's going to be a problem going into the season. We'll see, but I, for one, feel the transfer window has been inadequate. I don't think it's good enough to justify us going forward. The young players, great. That gives us, we're still investing in the future, but you can't just keep investing in the future, but not forget that you need to invest in the present as well. And Cavani's a goal scorer, but his injury record hasn't been great as well lately, and that's a cause for concern. But any player that wears the Man United shirt, I will back them, but you're still going to have your doubts either way.
No, I agree. I don't think it has been adequate enough. If we really look at it, it's so confusing because the club tells us one thing, we're building for the future, we have this plan, and then you sign Odion Nagalo on loan this past January on the last second. There was talks of Josh King that same window. There was talks of Solomon Rondon that same window, and it's just the exact opposite of what you actually have been saying. And then this summer, we're bringing in Cavani, obviously a much, much higher profile player than those players I just mentioned. But it's still confusing. It's very, very confusing. Okay, we signed Amad Traore for 30 million euros. Thiago was on – Liverpool bought Thiago for how much? I think it was under 30.
23 million, something like that.
And it's just like we need those here and now players to kind of bolster our squad, but then it's a very, very confusing place to be. I'm going to add Abdel to this. I
actually agree with that comment. I think we can still get. Buendia is a decent signing, but he's not the best player, but he is a quality player. It's just we need more than just signing championship players.
Tom Wade here said Benrahma incoming. Watch it happen, and I back that. Even Sarr I take right now still better than some options we have right now. No question at all. I think anyone who's watched, let's say a cup game in the championship, I'm not going to lie and say I've watched a lot of Benrahma, but I've watched at least 5 games. Very, very, very exciting wingers. Ismail Sarr burst onto the scene very late into the season last year. His exploits against Liverpool in that 3-0 win. Very, very exciting player. But all just feels way, way too rushed. Abdel, what are your thoughts about the incomings potentially? You know, the backups to Sancho, so Dembele, Ismail Assar, Ben Rama. What are your thoughts on those players and if they would really improve our first team right now?
Um, for Cavani, for example, he definitely will improve our team. And if now that Martial is out as well for the next 3 games, having someone like Cavani would definitely be better than having Igalo up front when you're going into the Champions League. But the thing is with the transfer window and the way it's been going, especially the last 3, Manchester United have made so many mistakes in the past, and they're trying to change them or rectify them by saying, "Oh, we're not going to be held to ransom on some of the fees. We're not going to pay high wages anymore. We're not going to be doing this and that." But unfortunately, you cannot fix that all of a sudden. Yesterday, I was really mad at the transfer window, but I took a step back and I kept thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, we've been doing these mistakes for the past 7 years. How do you go from this to doing better all of a sudden? It just won't work. It won't work. So the pattern that I'm noticing at the moment, the timings, yes, it's bad. We're still getting deals late. Yes, that's bad. We're not getting our the first choices that we want. That's bad. But for example, take a signing like Cavani. Yes, he's a high-profile player, and if you compare it, for example, with the Sanchez deal, we bought Sanchez on a long-term deal. Cavani is just a stopgap for the next year or 2, right? So even Igalo was a loan just so that we survived the next half of the season, and then COVID happened. So I'm seeing that they're trying to rectify that, but it's not going to be a quick fix kind of thing by going into like, you know what? Yes, we want young players, but in the meantime, because we can get our first targets because we've been messing up for the past 7 years, we'll just try to make these small deals, small loans, just until we get to the targets that we want, until we get to better environment, better deals, better negotiating. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. But the timings, it's still very, very bad the way
Yeah.
it's gone about. As for the young talents, look, young talents are always amazing to have. Scouting Facundo Pellistri from Uruguay, that's amazing. Getting Amad Traore, that's amazing. No issues with those 2. But when you do that after you're getting your first choice targets, this is when it's like you get more excited, you get more excitement. This is where the window ends on a 10. It was a perfect window. But it's just because these guys are coming while we're not getting any of our choices. That's why it's like it's bad.
That's the main issue, and I'm welcoming Neil Burton and my good buddy Ollie Chadwick. How you guys doing?
Very good.
Very good. Good to see you guys. We've been talking transfers, but let's I think one of the big things that a lot of people want to hear is, their feeling going into the rest of the season after the result that we saw yesterday. One of the poorest performances I've seen in my whole life as a Manchester United fan. Absolutely shameful performance. And then to make it worse, it feels like we're not really getting those. Ollie's not getting backed, in the way he should. Obviously, he wanted Jadon Sancho. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He's not going to get him. The Dembele thing is looking very, very bleak as we speak. We've had reports earlier on in the morning where it looked like it was happening, and then all of a sudden it's not happening. So if we get a right winger within the next hour and 15 minutes, who knows? But what do you think desperately needs to happen? Ollie, I'll start with you. What do you think needs to start? What needs to happen in the next hour and 15 minutes for us to, actually have a chance to close that gap in a significant way, to the top guys, to the top boys?
For us to close the gap, we need the clocks to go back about 24 hours, to be fair. On the first point, because the player we should have gone all out for was Upamecano, in my opinion. I know why people are about Sancho, but I wrote on the All for United site a long time ago, one of the first articles that went up there, that the reasons for not getting Sancho, whereas I said sometime before on another show, where would I strengthen? And it's centre halves, and it is so clear. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's not rocket science. We needed centre halves after the Crystal Palace game. We changed the system, and we still need centre halves because that was utterly abysmal. We may have plugged the gap with Telles. Portuguese defenders coming to this country, apart from Carvalho to Chelsea, can't think of anyone that's been a major success in that league. In sort of, you know, for the level of performance you need. I think it's all us about face at the club. Someone's just said that was the worst performance they've seen from United. That's the worst performance, and I'm over 50. That's the worst performance I've ever seen, home or away. I think Spurs would have scored 6, even if we'd have had 11 on the pitch, because we were just utterly clueless. I worry about the manager's position. I think I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd have sacked him today, because it would have given a new manager the international break to sort of at least see his players and get his feet under the table. And, you know, we've got some really tough games coming up. So, unfortunately, I love Ole. I'm up there with many a Man United fan, how much he means to this club. But to see him go, because it's going to happen at some point, I think now, it's going to break everybody's heart. And, you know, social media's in a meltdown about it. Everybody's talking about the next manager already. I just think he looked dead in the eyes yesterday, Ole, and that's my biggest fear. We need a director of football. That is an absolute must. I'd go back to Ajax and say, right, what can we get for Van der Sar? We just need one. Rio Ferdinand type person, knows the club, understands the fans, will communicate with the fans, because the board are not communicating with the fans. We're completely locked out from this club. And it's not their club, it's our club. And I get really pissed off about this. It's our club. You know, when you get all these people boycott this, boycott that. If we're going to do a boycott, let's do a proper one and stop everything in one go and hurt them in the pocket. You know, that's the only way you're going to hurt these billionaires, is to get something out of to stop them and hurt them in the pocket. Because at the moment, if we come top 4, and that's a big, massive word, if we come in top 4, then we're back in Champions League, we get that money. They ain't paying out massive bonuses because we're potentially winning titles and cups. We've just lost the plot. The board is one thing, and there is nothing between the board and the club at all. Absolutely nothing at all between the board and the club. And until you put that piece into place, it'll stay exactly the same. And we're not going to get even anything close. Upamecano would have been a great signing for us, especially given the way we've started in defence.
Listen,
when a team attacks us, we look vulnerable. I said on Friday's show, I'd have got rid of De Gea, put Henderson. I'd completely rebuild the back 4. The only one I'd keep now is Wan-Bissaka, because
Neil, some breaking news here. Cavani is United's new number 7.
Oh well, that's good news. I don't know if you saw the show where we did. It was United's best number 7 on the topic. I'm pretty certain it won't be Cavani in the next 5 years.
Yeah,
he's the new number 7.
No joke. That is a real thing.
They're trying to destroy the history of this club. This board. The number 7. My God, that's appalling. That's shocking. That is.
Yeah, it is.
We need players with passion for this club. We need 100% players. I've had a pop about.
Neil, do we lose you? Looks like we lost Neil there. That was a passionate, a passionate statement from Neil. Let me I'll let him come out and come back in here in a second. But that is some crazy news, everyone. Cavani is the new number 7. I mean,
it's not really that crazy.
in terms of, in
Really?
terms of, no, what I mean by that is he gets that number 7 jersey, and that's not a disrespect to Cavani, but giving that jersey that jersey is so powerful to me. I don't understand giving it to somebody who's only going to be here for 2 years and then we pass it on to somebody else.
Because Adidas want to sell 1 million shirts. So I know United fans get passionate about it. I'm a United fan, been United fan my whole life. But we've got to understand the business ethics of football sometimes. And the reason why Cavani is coming in is not just to help the team. There's a commercial reason. So you will sell another 1 million shirts in South America because Cavani's a number 7. So I know United fans want the perfect 7, and it would have been Sancho, and we'd have all been delirious. But I don't think fans should also get upset about shirt number. That's the way I look at it. It is a special number, and we've had heroes in there. My hero was Brian Robson as a kid. The best number 7 we've ever had. Sorry, George Best. Sorry, Ronaldo. But Brian Robson, he carried that number. But things are a little bit different now. We've got to understand that the Glazers are looking at, coming over COVID with this number 7 being back on someone's back. And it's not always a football decision, unfortunately.
I completely hear that point, Rob. Completely hear that point. It's just, maybe the purist in me wanted Jadon Sancho to have that jersey. That's just the purist in me. But Neil brought up some great points about, and I want to go back to this, the center back situation. The fact that, first of all, we spent 85 million pounds last year on a center back. Let's let that sink in for a second. And it looks like we need 2 more. It legitimately looks like we need 2 more center backs, which is crazy enough in itself. The comments are going crazy here, guys. Before I continue, we appreciate everyone who's joining. These comments are really interesting. Tom White says the power of the numbers jersey 7 is long gone. Joe O'Neill says apologize to Michael Owen too, please, Rob. that is hilarious. Says Brown Knight says people don't understand that the Glazers only see numbers and wages. Even with Smalling gone, we have 7 center backs, including Mengi, for 2 positions. Yeah, this center back situation after yesterday put me in a mental, that game yesterday put me in a mental space where I couldn't when I think about 85 million pounds. I'm gonna let Oliver Chadwick come in to follow up on this. But when I think of the fact that we spent 85 million pounds on a center back, and he will never in his life be world class. And it's just apparent to see. I don't care what anybody says. This is just a me thing. We spent 85 million pounds on a Lewis Dunk caliber or less. That's what we did. I think I've always said I prefer Victor Lindelof. It took that performance yesterday for a lot of people to see that he's at least on par with Victor Lindelof, in my opinion, Harry Maguire. And I agree, Upamecano would have been an amazing, amazing addition. Obviously, he just signed a new deal at Leipzig. So as soon as that happened, it was obviously he's going to be here for a little bit longer. But there was other options, and it's obviously we just got rid of Chris Smalling within the past 2 hours, or within the past hour or two, and we still have Rojo, Phil Jones on the books, for big money. So obviously bringing in another center back on big money after we signed one for 85 million pounds, it's just very, very tricky. But it's so apparent that we need one. So apparent that we need one. Oliver, what are your thoughts on what we saw from our center backs yesterday, and what you think we need going forward? Oliver, I think you're on mute.
There you go. Is that sorted?
Oh, yep. I think you're good.
There we are. Yeah, no, I think the sooner we get that memory out of our minds, the better. It was just a complete shit show, wasn't it, really?
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to say, I think we need to get the best out of Harry Maguire. I think it's a bit unfair just going on, these 3 matches that we've had with him playing this season. To say the level that I've seen on Twitter, people comparing him to, like a Watford centre-back or, lower down League One. I mean, I myself said it on Twitter. I think that was more reactive than anything. But I think for 85 million pounds, you've got to get someone that suits and gets the best out of him. I think we bought him because he was contributing with goals at his last 3 clubs. Yeah, for some reason he's just not on his heading game, which is a shame, because that's an extra 10 or sort of 5-10 goals a season, which can be quite a big difference. But he's not been on point. I think all this nonsense about a criteria for who we should have been going for in a transfer window, young, hungry for the next step, sort of not well expensive, because obviously we want to improve the price and then sell on. Gabriel was the left-sided centre-back, left-footed, great passing ability, quick, good sweeper, everything that would have matched with Harry Maguire and made him a better unit, because obviously with this high line, it just doesn't work for the fridge, unfortunately. And 22 million, it's sort of child's play. But our biggest problem, which everyone seems to skip over, is the fact that we cannot get rid of players for love nor money. They're all trapped in this golden cage with a massive wage. Everyone, even it would be a better option to loan these players out and pay half their wages, because currently they're getting paid to go and play Cluedo and the training room, which is just such a massive waste of money, and it always sort of gets brushed under the rug a little bit. So it's all very well as not wanting to spend money when we're burning giant holes in our pockets with all these dead weight players that are just sitting around training, or as Phil Jones is always perpetually injured.
Yeah,
a bit of a waste of time. But on a lighter note, it's not all complete doom and gloom like everyone seems to think. There is an hour left of this transfer window, and they have messed it up massively. But there is a domestic window open till the 16th. So all these excuses of, we've missed our chance. Unfortunately, the right offers weren't there, this, that, and the other. All the other nonsense that usually follows these sort of things. Right wingers. Everyone seems to think that there isn't quality right wingers to be had in the EFL. You're looking at, Alan St. Maxim is only 24. He's a very tricky, pacey winger. And, I'll take anybody at the minute, because we've been putting round pegs in square holes for far too long on that right-hand side.
I completely agree. I completely agree. It's hard for a lot of United fans to not feel, that quote unquote doom and gloom feel, that I feel like a lot of us are feeling at the moment. It just doesn't feel.
That's what everyone does. It's part of showing that you care, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, but I think in reality, if we look at last season and the beginning of this season, it's all been about extreme highs and extreme lows, and you really have to think about it like that. We beat Spurs, we beat City, and then we just go on a run of losing to teams and drawing to teams that it's just unacceptable. Draws against Sheffield United, draws against Villa 2-2, losing to Burnley 2-0, losing to Newcastle 2-0, losing to Bournemouth 1-0 last year. The back end of last season, we draw against Southampton 2-2. We scrape away against Leicester the last game of the season, and they don't have half of their starters. West Ham we struggled against.
You're right. You're completely right with the extreme highs and extreme lows, but it's all the mediocre stuff. We expect better because our club is in such disarray, and everything's like a raw nerve at the minute. We're all very tense and expect a lot more, which, to be fair, we should be getting. It isn't a commercial vehicle; it is a football club with a massive fan base.
Yeah.
But you forget we did a lot of sort of mediocrity last season. And as for the game against Tottenham, go on.
Yes, sorry. I just wanted to get this comment, and it's been official. Cavani has been officially announced by the club. Let's see what it looks like. Cavani signing confirmed. Obviously, we knew that was going to happen, but the club has made it official now. We have a new number 9. Someone who also played on the right wing in PSG a lot of his time there while he was playing with Zlatan. Interestingly enough,
he played left wing as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's very, very versatile. Hopefully, if he's fit, we might get a very, very good player for at least a year or two. It's going to be fascinating to see what shakes out, because Martial for the next 3 Premier League games is out. Unless some miracle happens and this ridiculous red card gets rescinded. Cavani we might see Cavani much sooner than we expect. Rob, I want to get your take on how you view Solskjaer going forward. I think that's a conversation that we need to have as United fans. It's been very obviously he's very divisive. There's obviously the Ollie in brigade, there's the Ollie out brigade. There's so many different opinions on him, and he's a very quiet man, but he's also very polarizing at the same time. Some people believe he's the man to lead us forward. Some people just don't see the tactical vision, or just don't feel like he's what the club needs right now. I was curious to get your thoughts on him, and do you think he's going to survive till Christmas? Let's be honest, because if these performances kind of pile up on themselves, he might be on the chopping block.
Well, I always say that personally for myself, I'm not Ollie in or Ollie out. I don't believe in any of that in football. I think you earn your stripes, and if you deserve it, then you deserve it. The way you got to look at this at the moment is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the last 12 months, going from January, run more points in the Premier League than Liverpool and Man City. So this is what I judge him on. So yesterday was awful. We know that. It was a terrible display, losing 6-1. And you're right, he does carve the fan base up. Some people love him, some people hate him. As far as I'm concerned, he's not at the club because he scored that goal in the Champions League final in '99. He's got the job, and I think last year he did a good job. Now, the other side of the coin is we're talking about the transfer window and what that means for Ole. United have just bought 5 players today and over the transfer window for the same price as Jadon Sancho. So there's one level of logic that says you need that generational talent to take your team on, like Sancho. It'd cost us £108 million. Or do you buy 5 players and bring them into the football club at different ages who have different kinds of impact and fill your squad out? Now, the populist view always for Manchester United fans is that you want the superstar. Yeah, so Jadon Sancho would have came to the club, and I agree. I think he would have been the right player for the attack on the right-hand side. And I think if we'd only bought 1 player, fans would have been happy with Jadon Sancho tonight. But we've bought 5, and that's because we've had to address several positions. And I think that when you sit down and think about it clearly about what Ole needs, he needs numbers in certain positions. We've bought a left back. We've bought a generational forward who, is now older, but could add something in the short term, especially if you haven't got Sancho. We have bought 2 right wingers today. People seem to forget this. I don't know why. Palestri's a right winger, and so is Traore. So they're being brought to the club and to be groomed to be first teamers in the next year or two. Doesn't give you immediate impact, but it gives you that kind of next step if you're not buying Sancho. And then you're looking at Van der Beek. So Van der Beek's come in. He hasn't started yet really in the Premier League, but he's been a guy to come in and glue that midfield down. So there is this, do you buy 1 player who is the star and Ole can take that player because that's who he wanted, or do you actually go to your list and still invest that money? United have still spent the money, you see, and this is what people, I don't know if they don't want to add it up, or I don't know why, but they've spent around 100 million in this window, about 90 to 100 million it will be when you include the Traore deal, which is actually quite a big deal for a young kid. And there is the chance that they sign Sarr as well. There's 10 days left of that window, and United went knocking to Watford yesterday to speak to them. So we know that in the press from our work, and Manchester United are interested in bringing in Sarr, but they won't bring him in at the top value. It won't be 45 million. United will want to pay something around between 30 and 40. If they get Sarr, he'd be a great addition. And I don't think for Ole, he would then have the players to say, right, no excuses. I've got 6 new players in this window because Sarr would be number 6, and I've got to go and do it. But he hasn't got long. And I said this yesterday after the Tottenham game, that he's probably got the next 6 games now to prove that he can just get it back on track. I don't know if you remember last season, there was the Burnley result, and then United bought Bruno Fernandes, and we went from being the worst team in the world against Burnley to then suddenly being this team over 10 games that just heated up because of 1 player. So Cavani might be that player. Tellers might be that player. I think, he's going to get assists from the left. I said in a previous show, he's going to give United fans a shock because he can cross the ball, and we haven't had anyone that cross the ball for 10 years. And it's going to mean that United play a slightly different brand of football. They might start winning games. But Ollie hasn't got long, and that's the truth for all football managers. If he can't make it work in the next 6 games, 7 games, 8 games, there's this guy called Pochettino looking for a job. And I think Ed Woodward loves him, and Ed Woodward would like to work with him. And that's, I think, the obvious path for Manchester United. Yeah,
I agree with a lot of those sentiments. It's very tricky to kind of gauge Ollie, because it feels like, like you mentioned the Bruno Fernandes bounce, and then the Pogba, Bruno, Matic midfield. Now that looks like we can't even do that anymore, just the way it's been looking over the past few games. Our center backs look kind of frail. We didn't address that need. I feel like there was 3 specific things in this window we didn't address. Obviously, an immediate right winger who's going to come in. We do have the 2 young boys who are going to be groomed that you mentioned over the next couple of years. I feel like we needed an immediate slot in. We haven't gotten that. I personally felt like we needed a defensive midfielder to kind of supplement Matic.
Yep.
McTominay is not a defensive midfielder. He's a box-to-box midfielder. Fred is not a sole defensive midfielder. He's a box-to-box midfielder. Pogba and Bruno are attacking midfielders. Pogba's playing out of position. I think everyone can agree with that. I think we needed a center back. It hurts me to say that. I never thought that we'd be talking about getting another center back after spending £85 million for one. But we do. We need another center back. It looks like that's not going to be addressed. We let Chris Smalling just leave. He might be our best or second best center back, in my opinion, just off of what we've seen last year at what he did in Italy and the problems we've had with Harry Maguire, in my opinion, for the past year and in the beginning of this season. We got our left back. I think that was a huge addition. I think Tellez is going to be a very powerful, very, very strong addition to the squad. I think Cavani is going to be a very strong addition to the squad. He gives us some fluidity. We can play Tony on the left now. We can put him in the middle. He has the ability to play on the right. A lot of people don't remember, when kind of he was in his prime was Zlatan there. There was there was a season where he spent almost a majority of his time on the right and flourished there, scored tons of goals and had tons of assists. So it's just something to think about. Tom Wade says, "Thank you, Rob. Depth is everything in football. Go all in on one player and it goes wrong. Then what? Go in for very options which are solid. Then it's a stroke of genius. Give me solid depth all day." I think I completely agree with that sentiment, by the way. I think where a lot of United fans are confused is it feels like we go all in on the players that we shouldn't go all in on. So, you go spend £85 million for a center back. You spend £50 million for a right back, even though I love AWB. I think he's a very, 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 solid right back. I just feel like he's in a bad turn of form, But would we get resale value right now for Aaron Wan-Bissaka? I wonder. I truly wonder.
And I said this yesterday. I said, if we'd bought Jadon Sancho last week, do Man United lose that game 6-1? Yes. Why?
Yes.
Because it's not about the right winger position yesterday. So I think the thing is with Man United, and I believe that they think this at the football club, when we talk to United and we kind of go through to the scouts and we kind of get that access, there's this feeling that United need to strengthen the squad in maybe 7 positions, 8 positions, and you can't do that all in one window. So yesterday we saw that all come to fruition in the perfect storm, is that several positions completely collapsed. United got hammered. There is a massive issue at centre-back, whether you like Harry Maguire or not. I think Maguire needs time. He's just had probably the worst trauma he's ever been through in terms of the arrest that he went through, and I don't think his mental health is really there to be in a Man United shirt today. And I think that's a problem. But you can't then just go and buy a centre-back every time the centre-back doesn't work. And this is the problem. Upamecano would be perfect. Yeah, we think he'd be a great signing. United could have got him for 60 million in this window. But in the next window, in his contract, he has a 35 million release clause. So United have thought, no, we're not going to pay it now. We'll wait for a year. So they'll do that, I think, eventually. But I think when you look at this window, they've gone for positions rather than the big name, and that never rubs well with United fans. United fans always want the superstar. They say they don't want Galacticos, and when they don't get Galacticos, they get upset. So I think when you look at United, you've got to kind of say, right, who takes this team forward? Now, Palestri's coming to the club from Uruguay. And what we've heard in the last 24 hours, especially, is that he's going to be fast-tracked into the team. So you'll have basically Palestri and Greenwood looking after the right side of the attack. Now, some people won't say that's world-class, maybe not give you the assists that you want. But United can't, sometimes beggars can't be choosers. And you have to kind of look for a broader spectrum across the squad. 5 players makes Manchester United better tomorrow. And I think this is where we have to kind of taper our expectations as United fans, that if we don't get the superstar, it might not be the worst thing in the world in the short term. It doesn't mean we're getting closer to Liverpool. It doesn't mean we're getting closer to City. But I'm under the firm belief that you pay 108 million for Jadon Sancho. Do you get closer to City? No. Do you get closer to Liverpool? No. You have to work the whole squad and you have to find the right players. And United have got a horrendous problem at centre-back. No one seems good enough at the moment. It almost feels like Mengi's going to have to be the guy that we pull through because he's got the generational talent in his legs. So do you bring him in at 18? That's a risk in itself. So it's a funny window for United in the sense that fans won't like it and fans will criticise, but they've spent 90 million, I think, on a pretty good set of players. And I tell you what, if Cavani makes that number 7 shine, we're all going to be here in 6 weeks or so going, oh my God, this was the guy we needed 5 years ago. Because he's got the talent. It's just the problem is that he's a bit older. He has had injuries, but he might do it. He might, but it's a roll of the dice. And United have had a funny kind of window, haven't they, in terms of their targets?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say what's going on to Ben joining us. What's right
up, guys? You good?
Hey,
doing great, man. Doing great. Now having a great conversation. We're less than an hour away from this window closing.
I closed at 10.
Closed at 10.
11.
Or is it 11?
Yeah,
11. It's 11 for the international window, and then you've got until it's 5 p.m. I think for some areas.
United have done their business. United business
Sancho's
is over.
happening at 1 minute to 11, guys. Fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah. We have to, before I go into the next conversation, I just wanted to get some comments in. First of all, Tom Wade should have gone in for Partey for 50 million euros. I still cannot fathom why we didn't, try and, attempt to go for Thomas Partey. I think we needed a defensive or a box-to-box stroke defensive midfielder. Didn't because the club is too tight. Partey with their money. That's funny.
Hey.
Smalling is awful. He did well in Italy, but he can't cut it in the EPL. Awful is an extreme stretch. Honestly, guys, what do you think we can do as fans that would actually get through to the Glazers and Woodward and demand change? What can we actually do? I'm going to pose that question to Ben right now. I'm going to put you on the spot. With this question because
I think we should give this one to Rob.
I knew you'd say that.
He answers every other question. Well, no, look, right. I done a video after the. And keep the tabs on the screen. Let's start this because then we can jump in. And if anyone wants to interrupt me, feel free. Right. I done a video after the Tottenham game where I straightforward turned around and said, anyone who tweets me Glazers out can do one. I don't care. After losing 6-1 to Tottenham, the last thing I want to see is everyone saying Glazers out, Woodward out, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, those football players who went on that pitch were a result of what has happened to this football club, yes, in the last 10 years, but they also didn't do enough on the day. It's quite plain and simple. So my message was actually to the Glazers, not to the Glazers out party and not to contribute to the Glazers out party. Now, this football club can still run as a football club with footballing people in and around it. The problem is we don't currently have that. I want to revert to a point I made a few weeks ago. The best business United have done this transfer window, this summer, last 2 years, has been at academy level. If you have a look at what Nicky Butt is doing at academy level and the footballing people around him, it's nothing short of sensational. And if you do not follow the youth teams, I don't blame you, you don't have to. And we can't all sit here right now and go, oh yeah, we've got a bunch of 8-year-olds right, United saved. It's not. There needs to be investments now, which is why I'm on the fence with the people who say that we've improved in depth, so it will make a difference to this team, and we need to keep adding quality in depth because it's going to go a long way. The reason why I'm so sceptical on this subject is because United currently do not have a level of class in that first team to compete with those top teams in the league. So when it comes to the fact that United need to improve and need to add strength in depth, I'd argue that actually what we need to do is we need to start pushing players out of the first team to their natural positions, which is on the bench. And I think that's the problem we've got at the moment. Earlier on, Tammy, you said you were like, we need another centre-back. Can't believe I'm saying that we need another centre-back. Pep Guardiola needed 4 wing-backs, 6 centre-backs, 2 goalkeepers, spent 500 million until he tried to find the right players. He still hasn't found the right players. The fact of the matter is, and another comment we had the other day, United are just going to keep spending money. That's football now, guys. The transfer market costs an absolute bomb. And if you want to continue improving your team, you're going to have to spend money year in, year out. And I also think it's interesting with Maguire. People are saying about how poor Maguire's been since the start of the season. If you watch a Liverpool game and seen Van Dijk as well since the start of the season, it is a shocking start to the year for defenders in Britain, full stop. So I'm not trying to cut him some slack here. What I'm trying to say is United are short in a number of positions in the first team. I personally don't think that Alex Telles solves our problems out on the left at all. I think he's great going forward, but I also ask everyone in this call here, Alex Telles, great going forward, brilliant. Cannot wait to see him whip a ball in the box. You tell me when we've actually even been in a position where we could put a ball in the box in our first 3 games this season. The football we have played has been that poor that we haven't done anything going forward. I think I read something the other day. We've had 10 shots on goal since the first game of the season, which is, and that includes 4 goals, by the way. It's atrocious. We've leaked 11 goals 12. Now, I think, or 12 goals now. 12. How many shots have other teams had? Tottenham had about 7 chances before they made it 3-1. It was absolutely ridiculous, and that was before the sending off. So for me, our problem isn't shipping out the Lingards. It's not shipping out the Smallings or Rojos. These guys were never good enough to play for United. We've settled for mediocrity. The problem is now we're going out and we're saying Cavani's better than Ighalo. That's a win. No, it's not a win. You saw what Harry Kane and Son done for Tottenham the other day. And I don't want to live in the past. 10 years ago, Harry Kane's a Man United player. I'm sorry, but he is. You roll the clock back, Harry Kane's a Man United player. You roll the clock back. And I had a thought about this, and Neil, you might be able to help me out with this one, or someone else. I was having a think in general, because United, in the transfer window, have lost their identity completely. Absolutely lost it. And I was having a thought to maybe a moment that I think that United lost it. And I'm going to throw this one in the hat. Do you remember the year that we lost out on signing? And by the way, I don't rate him. I'm not trying to say that everything would be different if we had signed him. But do you remember the summer that we tried to sign Jordan Henderson and didn't get him? And I think that was a prime example under Sir Alex Ferguson and the the Glazers, where United started losing their identity. And I think that was the summer before that was when we let go of. No, it wouldn't have been that. It'd been a few years before that. It would have been about 2011, 2012. I can't remember. But then it's like letting Ronaldo go, bringing in
I think it was 2012, because that was the year in the summer Sir Alex tried to sign Lucas Moura and lost him to PSG.
That's it. That was the summer, yeah. And even Hazard. Do you remember when Hazard went to Chelsea?
2013-14, we tried to get him just after the Champions League final at Wembley between the 2 German clubs. We tried to get Hazard then, and he told us, no, I'm staying at Lille. And he won the league.
Ben, can I answer that? I think United lost their identity the day that Ed Woodward said he wanted to sign Galacticos. Yeah, and he said that to us in the press. He said to us, this was kind of when he took over, that his strategy was that United were the biggest club in the world and we can sign whoever we want. Success is built from bringing the right players in, not the expensive players. That's not how football works. When Sadio Mane was on the market, every Manchester United fan did not want him. When Salah was on the market and went to Liverpool, not one Man United fan wanted him. When Firmino was on the market, not one person wanted him from Manchester United. The issue is the culture of the football club and about who you bring in. Now, they've brought Cavani in. Cavani's a name. He might do it. He might not do it. But he's old. We know he's not a long-term solution. But it's about the positions, about who United bring in, and looking at it in a kind of more holistic way. And the day that Ed Woodward said that he wanted Galacticos was the day United lost this battle. And we're still looking at Galacticos, and this is a problem. Jadon Sancho would be a great signing. We all love him. We all think he's going to be a generational talent. 108 million, could become a Ballon d'Or winner, a player like Wayne Rooney for 10 years at Man United, being a superstar for England. Does he fix everything today? Nowhere near. We've actually got quite a good lad playing right side of the attack at the moment. who scored 20 odd goals last year, and he's 18. So I think there's a bigger picture here about strategy, and the whole thing is United's recruitment under the Woodward years has failed, and it's continuing to fail. So players coming in.
Rob, can I quickly add to that quickly? You're saying about like players fitting in and fitting into sort of what we're doing, and this is why. And I don't want to be over dramatic, and I don't want this to be a so to speak, a clickbait title. Oh, by the way, Temi, Abdul's waiting to come in. I don't want this to be a clickbait title, but I genuinely feel like this transfer window is a nail in the coffin for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I genuinely think that, and the reason why I think that is because it's not just this summer. You've got to go back to January. He wanted 2 players in January. He wanted 2 players. He wanted Haaland and he wanted Bellingham. You also go back to the summer before. He wanted Fernandes. You got him 6 months too late after 3 months of horrendous football. This summer, we know who his targets were. He wanted Reguilon, missed out on him. He wanted Sancho, hasn't got him. Now, it doesn't matter what we want to say. I mean, Traore again looks like fantastic talent. I'm happy we've got him. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy we've got the young lad, even the young lad from Argentina, Uruguay, Palestri. Happy we're buying these players. But the fact that we're having to rush through Palestri to be in that Champions League squad tomorrow, by the looks of things, I think it just shows where we're at. And I think the whole thing with Dembele and the panic, it shows. Oh, I've got a cat trying to get in it. It shows exactly where we are at. By the way,
who's to blame for that? Like what you're saying now, I agree with you 100%. But who's to blame for that?
Oh, of course, and we've seen it with Van Gaal. We've seen it with Mourinho.
It's the Glazers. It's the owners.
It's down to the board, of course. It is. But
so strategy. If you have a board with 13 or 14 people on it, and not one of those 14 people have any football experience, as I always say, it's like trying to ask a plumber to fix your car. It's no good. Yeah, you can try it, but they haven't got the skill set to do it. So we'll see these repetitive issues happen again. I agree with you. I think that it could be the nail in the coffin for Ole. But these 5 players, they're decent players. They're not top level, They're not the kind of guys like you just said there about Reguilon. United have always gone after Tellez. He was their number 1 target at left back. Reguilon wasn't. He came in. Madrid came up with this stupid deal, and the only person that would take it was Tottenham Hotspurs, so he went there. Overall, I think when you look at these 5 players, Ole's now got to prove that he can take these 5. Integrate them.
It's not enough, is it?
But it's never going to be enough. That's my point, is that unless you go and buy for every position in their top level and fix it overnight, but that's also not the answer, because what you need is someone who can kind of take the method that Klopp took at Liverpool and took a team that was 4th and 5th or 6th in the league and build them over a 5-year period. So now that's not quick enough for United fans. I know that. But that is unfortunately the way we have to go at this football club. It's a slow build, and it's going to happen window after window. It can't happen in one window.
So one problem as well you've got in football now is these sort of managers don't get these sort of time anymore. Like the reason Klopp got so long, the reason Pep gets so long is because they've proven it elsewhere. And I'm not discrediting Ole in that sense, but look at Jose Mourinho, he got 2.5 years. Look at Van Gaal, he got 2 years, and he got sacked after he won the FA Cup final. Yeah. And they proved
and
it.
The board told them that no, you don't need your targets because they're not Man United players.
Yeah, and it goes against what's going to happen in the sense like is Ole going to get the time to rebuild the club? I don't think he will, and it pains me to say that. But I want him to be given the time and show he can do this, because you can see the players he's got out. He let go of Sancho, like he sent him out on loan first, then he just told him you can go beat it. I've had enough. He sold Lukaku, which we didn't adequately replace Lukaku, and that was a problem. Like Lukaku scored goals, but he wasn't a United player. But we still let him go. How much more are we going to how long are we going to go before we realise there's more mistakes than there is positives at the club? And the big problem is bringing it. The big problem is, who do you bring in?
But the problem for me, Pochettino, this is where I'm at, Reece, and this is why I keep hearing Pochettino's name, right? I keep hearing Pochettino's name.
He builds clubs.
Pochettino is not a good manager for Manchester United under this board.
No, he isn't.
Because he builds clubs, he builds teams, he needs the players that he wants, and that means another restructuring job. And whether we need that or not is down to opinion, personal opinion, whatever. The fact of the matter is we've seen the history of this board, of this club, the last 6, 7, 8, maybe even a decade. They have not backed their manager and given them the players, the exact players that they've wanted all along. So I actually think that for United, going to Pochettino now would be a step back. However, he is a quality manager, and his managerial creditations are so much more for me than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Beyond, he might not have won a trophy, but still.
So Ben, to that point, that you made an interesting point about Pochettino, and he's a builder, right? But I think one thing that's interesting to me, when he was at Spurs, he was kind of working under a very, very stringent budget. As you guys know, Spurs were building building out the stadium. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's any Spurs fans in here, I think they went 18 months at one point without bringing a signing in, and he made it work. And he made it work.
It went to crap, and the relationship started deteriorating when he started asking for better players.
But to that point, he went 18 months without making a signing, and he got them to a Champions League final. So if I understand the whole sentiment of, okay, he might not get his first choice players. I don't think he had his first choice players at Spurs, and he still found a way to make it.
But that's why I also implore United fans for calm, and I always do this. And everyone goes, "Oh, why are you the guy that always says calm?" Because I think you have to understand what your football club is and where they are. You can't get rid of the Glazers. You can protest. You can do whatever you want. They still go and buy the shirts. So I don't know what that means. You don't want the owners there, but I'm going to buy your shirt and give you the money. Okay. I think football fans have to understand what Manchester United is today. And I agree with Ben. If you bring in Pochettino, you start the build again. Manchester United have spent £1.2 billion on footballers in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's not about money. This is about recruitment and about knowledge. And Manchester United have not had any of it since Fergie left. So Fergie's gone. We have to forget about him. Where do you go from here? And for transfer window to transfer window, all you can do is kind of look at your recruitment strategy and your scouting and pick the guys that you think might do it. They've bought 2 right wingers today who could be generational talents. Now, we don't know that because we're not au fait with them. I know with Palestri for 6 months, people have talked to me about him in South America, and he's a guy that people like. Now, Traore, anyone who knows anything about Italian football, obviously you're saying up there that that he's at Atalanta, he played 3 games, but he's a big talent.
Yep.
It might work, but might is a funny word because it's always the word we use in every football build because you just don't know. Ole needs time, and if you're not going to give him time, sack him tomorrow. If you're not going to give him a year and United fans are not going to back him, then he must go now. But the problem with that is that you just get this cycle of abuse that goes round over and over again.
What is time?
You can't be sacked because you're spot on, Rob. You're spot on. It's nothing. And by the way, the point I wasn't trying to make by saying that it's not enough wasn't the fact that he could fix every position this summer. That's no chance. That's fair. That's never going to happen. This isn't a game of FIFA. It doesn't work like that. The point I'm trying to make is the efficiency of getting these targets in and making them actually happen to the priority, I suppose, of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And when it comes to the board in negotiating these deals and making them happen today in entirety, and I suppose you've got to take everything with a pinch of salt, but you've also got to listen to the people who know their stuff as well, was a calamity. It was just, I said yesterday, I don't think today could be a worse day than yesterday, meaning the defeat to Spurs. I think it's up there. Today, you just didn't know what was going to happen. Anything could have dropped. And also, I don't agree with going into the Championship and getting a winger now. I don't see the point. I think you've either got to give the players the chance to go. And again, baffling for me, if there was a chance that we weren't getting a winger, why the hell did we send Taif Chong out on loan? I don't get it. I don't get it at all why he ended up on loan. Now, I get it. If you want the player to progress, he's got to be guaranteed games, etc., etc. But if the reports are true today, and I think it's Chris Williams done a really good thread on this, that deadline from Dortmund for Sancho was in place. United knew all this. United knew that they weren't going to get Sancho after then. Again, it depends what you believe and what you don't believe, etc., etc. But for me, it just emphasises your point more, Rob, about the knowledge, so to speak, the maybe overinflamed ego of some of the people sitting on the board thinking that they could negotiate these deals down.
Yeah, totally. And that's exactly what they thought. With Sancho, and I'll tell you the little bit that I know and that I've reported on anyway, we knew that Manchester United wanted Jadon Sancho a long time ago. He's been number one target for a really long time. Manchester United believed that the 108 million fee that they were quoted was unrealistic. That was before COVID, and after COVID, it was 100% unrealistic, and it probably doesn't really match his market value. So United were going to play brinkmanship all the way through this transfer window, and they basically said, quite frankly, and they said it to Dortmund as well, is that we're not going to come back for him until the end of the window, and that's what we saw last week. There was a bid last week. It was a very kind of weak bid in the sense that there was no real detail or structure to it. It was just that this is kind of what we want to pay. And are you going to play ball with us, Dortmund? And Dortmund went no. And Dortmund have always said no. So United sent players out on like Chong went out on loan because United did kind of think that they were going to get Sancho because they are arrogant and they believe that they're the biggest club in the world and they believe that they are the new Galacticos. So this is part of the problem of the football club looking at Ed Woodward. And, you know, Dan James was going to go out on loan and today they pulled that loan. And they pulled that loan because they didn't get the players that they really wanted for the right-hand side. So Dan James now is going to have to sit on United's bench and not get any development this year. So he could have gone to Leeds and played 20, 30, 40 games this year, and that might have really helped him. And I think Chong will do well in Germany. So there's all these things that you can add up, and it's more about the culture of the club rather than just individual signings. It's more about how they target people and how they get it over the line. I actually think that this window isn't so bad. I think the 5 players that they've brought in are better than where we were a week ago. Yeah, a week ago, if we'd ended up with Van der Beek and let's say we got Sarr, over the line, and there's still 10 days to get that one over the line if they do want him. But if they've got 2 players, I think that would have been weak. I think they need numbers, they need upgrades, and these guys are not automatic upgrades, but it gives you options if you are clearing the squad out. And also, I agree with what you said. There's players at United, stealing a living, as we say, and they shouldn't be even in the squad, and they're not even options. I don't know if you saw Sergio Romero's wife today take to Instagram begging Manchester United to let her husband go because they've been inept. They should have let him go a long time ago. United play their goalkeepers, 3 goalkeepers we've got, £600,000 a week. That is malpractice. Yeah, no board would authorize 3 goalkeepers to earn 600 grand a week. So there's all these little things that I think are more important than, say, just the generational signing of Sancho, because there's so many little things. It's like death by 1,000 pinpricks. And United have been there for 10 years.
To be honest with you,
it's a domino effect as well. By the way, like these small little things become bigger and infest the dressing room, and then when they invest the dressing room, the manager don't know how to control it down, and then they don't practice well, and then their minds are not there, and then they underperform on the field. That's the part the fans don't really get. Like, you go out there and tell me that, it's his job, like the selection and the performance is on him. But there's so much going on behind the scenes and so much wrong stuff going on behind the club that results in these things. And I think that's the thing that fans don't want to hear.
Can I ask you a question?
Good performance.
Abdul, can I ask you a question? Because when it comes down to talking about Ollie and his tactics, we've had loads of conversations about it, and I always think you're bang on the money, right? Yeah. So from what Rob just said, from what I've just said, from what everyone's just said, is sort of like this is an all right window for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Knowing Solskjaer and knowing the way he plays, any of these signings he's made, do they go into his first team and do they suit his system?
The only one I looked at extensively, but this is from my humble opinion. I am no scout or recruitment department specialist. But
we're here
from my opinion is Alex Telles does not fit the way that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to play. He can adapt Ole. He can adapt his system a little bit to suit Alex Telles' attributes and abilities, but that's still a question that we have to figure out in the future, whether Ole is going to do that or not. Because the way Alex Telles plays and the way Rashford plays, one of them have to compromise for the other, right? That's why I was saying, actually, I think Reguilón was the perfect fit, but as Rob was reporting, he was never on the list anyway. So this is where I got like, how was he not? Because Reguilón's profile actually fits more what we do on the pitch than Alex Telles. So this is where
Telles was the first choice at left back. It was Ole's first choice at left back, and that was something that was leaked to us very, very early on in the window. Yeah. And the thing is with Telles, the reason why United want him is because Marcus Rashford plays far too wide every week. So Marcus Rashford needs to stop sitting on the wing because he's not a winger. He plays on the left of a 3. He needs to become more narrow. And the idea is that Telles makes his own opportunities. So Telles will overlap and dribble with the ball and get past people. And we know that Luke Shaw tries that. And that was Luke Shaw's game as a kid. But it's not really a strength. He doesn't get assists from there. Whereas Telles gets double-digit assists on the left-hand side because he takes his man on. So I think that's the reason why Ole is trying to change that and looked at Telles more than Reguilón. Reguilón was never a target for United. That was all paper talk, and that was all Real Madrid putting it all out there in the press.
And you could be right, Rob. Like Ollie could have a specific plan for Alex Telles. Like he's waiting on him to come to execute it.
He will be the whip.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that part, but from just how he plays, the way I've seen him play, and the way I've studied him, and the way I know how Rashford plays, right now as they play, they don't match each other. But Ollie could have a plan for that. He could, and it will work.
Yeah.
And the way Alex Telles, for example, crosses the ball to inside on the pitch, right? One of his key attributes is he crosses the ball high and deep. So he needs a center forward that can head the ball. He needs a center forward like Cavani. Exactly. To get the best out of him. He won't work well with, for example, a Martial or a Rashford in the box because they want the ball to their feet and strike it. So that's not what Alex Telles offers. That's what Reguilón offers. That's why I was saying right now how we play, Reguilón fit it more. So I didn't know. I was kind of like taken back a little bit on why Alex Telles. He's still good. He's still very, very good offensively. Upgrade on what we have, but that's the point I'm trying to like argue. Like it's just the fitting as things stand.
Let's get some of these comments going. It's been great so far, guys. There's been so many comments coming through. Tom Wade says, surely Telles will force Rashford to stop playing so wide now. Sean Williams couldn't do that. Telles can, and that's why Ollie wanted him. When was the last time we even some Jay says, when was the last time we even scored a goal through a decent cross? All of a sudden we're gonna change. We Telles and Cavani. Don't think so. Let's see what else. Genuinely don't think Telles will go straight in. That is fascinating. I think he will definitely walk into this side when he's fit and ready to go. Somebody says, Brown Knight says Williams will now be our backup right back. I can definitely see that happening. Him moving over to the right to supplement AWB. Now that Diogo has left. Gavin Murphy says, where have these Poch rumors come from? I don't know
Daily
what you're
Mail.
talking about. Oh, so
Daily Mail.
Okay, interesting. You said Ed Woodward.
Yeah, that's where they initiated from. Was that Ed talked to loads of people in the press and said that when he sacked Mourinho, he told the world he wanted Pochettino. That's a fact. So that hasn't changed. If he goes for any manager, his number one target hasn't got a job at the moment and would cost no compensation. So that's the problem for Ole. Ole said at the end of the season before United got third that he was worried about his job. That was coming out of Old Trafford. He was worried that there was someone waiting there for his job, and we all knew it was Pochettino. So that hasn't changed. Van Gaal knew 4 months before he got sacked that Mourinho was going to get that job, and we all did. So that's how Ed Woodward works, and this is what he does in the press. He talks, he chats to his friends. It ends up in the red tops, and that's where this comes from. Fans are like, where does it come from? It comes from the football club.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because I thought that I personally thought that Mourinho was the guy to take over from Sir Alex, and then I thought Pochettino was the guy to take over from Mourinho, and it's just sort of like everything seems to happen at United about 3 years too late.
Self-fulfilling prophecies, I call it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're expecting Sancho to sign in 3 seasons' time. Funny enough, when his contract ends, so it'll be on a free transfer.
That's right.
So, I wanna. That's absolutely frustrating to think about, but I want us to talk about what we should do with the 11 we currently have, just for a little bit. We're coming up on the end of the show. I'm going to make sure I get everyone's rating out of 10 for the transfer window so far. So be prepared for that. Think about what you think this transfer window was on a scale of 1 to 10. But before that, we've seen that first 11 we put out against Spurs was pretty much our strongest first 11. You know, that's the 11 that put us on that really beautiful run post lockdown, maybe outside of Bailly, you know, coming in for Lindelof. It looks like, in my opinion, it looks like there needs to be some form of shift, because something is off. Something is clearly off. And I don't think this is a reactionary thing. I think this is kind of like a buildup from the end of last season into this season. It's filtering in. The Pogba Bruno thing, does it really work? Do we need 2 defensive midfielders in there because we have 4 defenders at the back that we're always worried about? Does Henderson come in for De Gea? I'm not saying that De Gea had a bad game on Saturday or yesterday, excuse me. I don't think he had a bad game at all. But
Temmie, can I throw something out there?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think with our new signings, our strongest formation is a 3-5-2.
And that's you. You literally just read my mind. You actually just read my mind. I was going to pose the question. We're struggling defensively, and it's not going to get any better in the next. We're not going to get a new center back within the next, hour or 20 or 40 minutes, right? Do we go 3 at the back? And if you remember last year, I'm sure you all do. When we went 3 at the back, we were successful a lot of times. We beat City with a 3 at the back. We beat Chelsea with the 3 at the back. I believe we used it against Liverpool. And I don't think we played too bad. I don't know. I think it was a 2-0 loss where we played that 3 at the back. But
yeah, we did not.
We didn't play bad at all. Do we move Luke Shaw to left center back and then put Alex Telles on the left? Put Harry Maguire in the middle, maybe Bayer Lindelof on that right. Put Fred and Matic in there. Maybe Van de Beek. I'm curious to know where your heads are, because in my opinion, I can't imagine us running this 4-2-3-1 and being successful, because there's something there's something that's broken. I might start with Oliver. What do you think we should do in the next 6 weeks to kind of get back in a rhythm, formation wise?
I don't know whether you lot have noticed, but after that travesty at Tottenham, Ollie admitted quite rightly that we defend as a team. Now, if you actually look back when we had McTominay and Fred being tenacious, getting at everything, obviously the transition wasn't that quick, but that just covered for the frailty at the back. I mean, if you look at most, back fours in the top clubs in Europe, you can just leave them to it and you're covered. They are solid defensively as a unit because they have leaders, they organise themselves, and it's all, that's the defence boxed off. But when we were playing well, we weren't scoring, 3, 4, 5. It was 1, 2 goals, getting us through, because we were almost Mourinho-esque under Ollie. Just for a lack of quality players that can make things happen. It was all grind out a result by doing the simple things well. And I think we lose that. As soon as you play Pogba and Bruno, there's not enough, tenacity. Get the ball, pass it sideways like the Carrick, it's that old do the simple things well. And I don't whether it's just me. Do you really think Ollie wanted Donny van der Beek? He doesn't seem to want to play him.
I definitely.
It was his target. It was his target.
Yeah,
so why is he not playing him then?
So I think
because he's not fit yet. That's what we're hearing. He's not ready.
Pogba, surely.
That's not what the sports science is telling Manchester United. The sports science is saying that Pogba's fitter, so that's why they've not played him yet. It's a technical thing, but it's how football clubs work and pick players. So he will play. There's no doubt about it. But he was Ollie's target. He asked for him specifically. So
also, tell me one player who's come straight over from the Dutch league and adapted to English football.
Totally.
Yeah,
it's so tough. It's a completely different league. I
agree. I think it takes some time, but I think that we almost have an embarrassment of riches at that attacking midfielder position now. This Pogba thing, playing as a holding midfielder, it's just a problem. It's a problem.
He gets caught on the ball a lot, probably more than he used to. I don't know whether it's just a confidence thing, but he used to be able to dance past someone and then make a simple pass or make an exquisite pass. But now he just seems to be getting caught on it by dilly-dallying, indecision. Maybe the options aren't there up front. But I don't know. I'm thinking when we had Matic, Herrera, and Pogba, he had a box-to-box, a CDM, and an attacking mid. It worked. And it did work. When they were all on song, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Whether or not we can find, use McTominay as a box-to-box. We used to play as a number 10, so he's obviously got the forward thinking and then a little bit of defensive work in him. He doesn't like falling back to be the extra centre back or anything, so you'd have to have Matic there. But then that leaves you with Donny van der Beek, Pogba, and Bruno all vying for one position. So I don't see Bruno as the box to box. He doesn't like just doing that. He's a bit too, I have to get forward. He gets a bit carried away, which then obviously leaves massive spaces. Matic is. Lack of pace is then, taken advantage of, and our frailties at the back get exposed.
And you're making some great points, Oliver. I think, in my personal opinion, the best we've ever played under Ollie is that beautiful run he had when he first came in. Right, played the 4-3-3, 2 8s, 1 6. we had our wingers wide. We had a very well. Our defense wasn't that good that year. Let me not over exaggerate that point. But I think there was when we first saw Ollie come in, we had that vision and that blueprint of 4-3-3, a six who wants to sit there and screen, which is Matic. But obviously now I don't think Matic can do that job solely by himself, which is the real issue we have right now. So let's say we had bought a defensive midfielder, but that's hindsight. Let's just say we bought a defensive midfielder. We would have had the ability to maybe play Bruno and Pogba as 2-8s, maybe Van de Beek and Bruno as 2-8s. Potentially, these are just things I'm thinking about. But we can't do that. That's not something we don't have the makeup to play a traditional 4-3-3 right now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So now my question is, do we supplement that with a 3 at the back just for this in this period right now? Because it's clear that either Ali has to do the tough thing and pull either Bruno or Pogba, which I don't think he's going to do. I genuinely can't see him doing that right now. Rob said that Van de Beek is he's working on his fitness. The sports scientists say that it's going to only be a matter of time before he gets those run of games. Maybe Van de Beek plays next to Matic, but even then, I feel like you're taking away from what Van de Beek does really well.
You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. If you take either Pogba or Bruno off, some people like Pogba.
Can I answer that?
I'd have to say just quickly, mate. One thing on that. Using the 5 at the back, do you not think it's a bit of a waste of Wan-Bissaka? I mean, he's looked a little light on confidence.
I agree.
His role as right back. But him going forward, he looks, there's a lot to be desired. So it looks like
but when you're attacking, you put Van der Beek in the midfield then potentially with Pogba. When you're attacking, you've got 4 solid players at the back, which will then leave Alex Tellez room to go forward. In an ideal world, I suppose, tactically. I mean, I'm not the person to talk about tactics at all. But for me, Wan-Bissaka was a winger at youth level. He can do it. The problem is he's trying to do it on the biggest stage at Manchester United, and it's not easy. And I think we said this, Oliver, to be fair, a few weeks ago on a Walder Edge program. We forget how young and inexperienced Aaron Wan-Bissaka is because he plays for Manchester United.
His attacking prowess, isn't it? I mean, at the minute he looks a little bit like he gets a nosebleed when he gets in the final third. But if he used to be a winger, then there's obviously something there to be worked on.
I think he had five assists in all competitions last season. Five assists in all competitions last season for a defensive right back. I think the potential is there. I think his real issue is he doesn't have a true right winger to overlap off of. If you look at him, he's always attempting to go one-on-one by himself. Mason likes to come in. Juan Mata likes to come in. Dan James.
We saw that with Dan James. He comes back.
He comes back. So there's no one overlapping him.
Confidence, isn't it? He likes to be an inverted winger and strike off his stronger foot. And left wing.
Rob, I want you to go back and answer that question of what you think we should do formation wise. I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. Is a 3 at the back something that you would do? Would you stay with the 4-2-3-1 that Ollie's kind of trusted for the past year and some change and just tweak the midfield up or tweak the defense up? What would you do?
Right, I don't think Ole is hot on 4-2-3-1. I think it's a formation that he went to when he realised that 4-3-3 couldn't work. So that's why he did it. He put Matic there as the screen, and that's how he played that system. I think you have to kind of debunk a few myths before we kind of decide what he's going to do. But we do know that he would like to play 3-5-2. This is something that we've heard from the club, and this has come from the scouting network. So this is why they're looking at the players that they've brought in today. So 3-5-2, what do you do? Paul Pogba, everyone talks about him being an attacking player, and we all know that he can do that. There's not one time in his whole career where he's either played as the number 10 or as the out-and-out attacking midfielder. He's played on the left of a 3 at Juventus with Pirlo on the inside of him. He's never, ever played that role. The only time he played it is when he was 16. He's never played it since. So plenty of managers don't believe that Paul Pogba should be your attacking outlet, even though we know he can dribble and beat people. We know this. It's not where he plays. Right. From what we hear again, Pogba is happy playing as the modern number 6. And what I mean by that is that it's not a case of him doing the defensive work and being like someone like Kante breaking up play or Partey or someone like that. He wants to get the ball deep and he wants to be the quarterback that gets the ball going. So that's where he likes to play. Now, I think that Ole will play 3-5-2. Why do I think this? The reason I think play this is he'll play Maguire in the middle, he'll play Shaw to the left of him, and he'll play Wan-Bissaka to the right. That means he'll allow Tellez to be the overlapping left-sided wing-back. And in the middle, you'll have 3 midfielders, Van der Beek, Pogba, and Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes plays as the box-to-box for Portugal. Manchester United fans don't seem to know this.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
they seem to think he's a number 10 or he's an attacker. He does do those things, but en masse for Portugal, there is this thinking in Portugal that he's a much better box-to-box player because of the way he presses the ball. Now, it takes him out of the penalty area, but if you've got someone like Van der Beek, who's got a really good goal-scoring record and hits the target quite often, and that allows Pogba a bit more freedom in the middle to have coverage around him, to have short passes on, that keeps that midfield three really tight. It means you've got a three behind them defense that's really tight, and it means your fullbacks, and I include that if they played Wan-Bissaka wide, who was a winger as a kid at Palace, and he actually went to my school, which is why I know him. He was a kid at our school, and he played on the right wing, and he was a right winger all the way through at school time. Was that those two players can go forward with the midfield sat there, and they'll have two strikers, and the two strikers, if it happened tomorrow, would be Martial and Cavani. So it might mean that Rashford has to go and sit out sometimes. I think he plays too much football. He had a broken back at the end of last season. He should not be playing every week. It's a problem for him. And we know that Mason Greenwood has been used sparingly. And we also know that Mason Greenwood is expected to become a number 9. He's not going to be a right winger. We know this. It's the club have been very explicit about all of these things. So if it happened tomorrow, and I think you look at the players that they've bought, 3-5-2 suits the system. It allows Maguire to play with two players next to him who are better on the ball. I wouldn't say Wan-Bissaka is fantastic, but you look at the weaknesses of Lindelof and you look at the weaknesses of Bailly, and they're both problematic with the ball at their feet. When United do that little thing from goal kicks and they play it 10 yards, this is what modern football is now. You play out from the back. Those centre-backs can't do it. They can't play that ball. Bailly played that ball across, didn't he, in Tottenham?
I don't know if Wan-Bissaka can do it either.
I think the problem is, though, if you've got 3 there, not 2, that helps. So if you've got two players who will naturally take the ball into wider positions because they're effectively fullbacks, you've got 3 there and they can do that. Now, tactically, it allows Pogba to kind of be a bit more freer. He doesn't have to screen as much. But it means that you might play a triangle in there. You might allow Van der Beek to go. You might let Bruno kind of go up and down a little bit more. Bruno's happy defending if he's in that position. Not as a number 10, but if he's the 8, he's okay. And that then allows Telles, and this is the key point, it allows Telles to be the player that Telles is. And that is that he goes past the last man and gets across in the box. And then you've got 2 strikers to hit. So it's not 3 across spread out like United are now looking for the channels. It's 2 strikers attacking the goalkeeper between the centre-backs. And Cavani suits that. And I tell you what, Martial will be all right at that. It's not his game, but I think he could learn. And we've seen that he's learned a lot in the last 12 months. So for me, that's why I think United will go 3-5-2. And I think that's the kind of an attacking formation that we see in Europe a lot more than we do in the Premier League. I cover La Liga, Ligue 1, and obviously Serie A. And you see it more in those leagues, and it's more natural. Whereas in the Premier League, everyone goes 3 at the back. What's going on? They must hate their defenders. And no. So the modern game is fullbacks bombing on forward, and they are the guys that get your assists. Go and ask Liverpool. They play 4-3-3, and it's their fullbacks that are the most dangerous players on that pitch, and it allows the front 3 or the forwards, 2 or 3 of them, to go and score goals.
Just quickly, Rob, isn't it funny? Sorry, Sam, just quickly, isn't it funny? Because for me, I've not been really that excited about Cavani, but you mentioned there about strike partnerships, and actually, I quite like the idea of a Greenwood-Cavani strike partnership.
Exactly, yeah.
Actually,
I think it would work.
Yeah.
You have one guy who's deadly on the floor. Yeah, I really do believe that you can call Mason the next Robin van Persie because he does stuff that I haven't seen since Robin.
Incredible. Yeah,
incredible. We were lucky to see Robin in training when he came the first year at United, and it was like, oh my God, like Wayne Rooney, go to his house and work with him. Go and look what Van Persie does in the box, because he was just stunning. And I see it in Mason. Mason does things on that left foot that just make me kind of like my heart beat a lot faster. And I think Greenwood with Cavani, I don't want to defend against that.
The one thing as well that Cavani will give Greenwood, and he'll actually give it to Rashford, and he'll give it to Martial. He gives him that, as we would all know, he gives him that predatorial instinct. It's something that Greenwood has it. He's got that predatorial instinct, but he's not fully mastered it yet. Cavani has, and you've seen it at Napoli. He was a serial goal scorer. PSG, yeah, it's not exactly a We call it the Farmers League. Some people do, some people don't. But Cavani scores goals from anywhere. Like, that's what he does. But he's so ineffective around the 12-yard area and just on the edge of the box. He will give us that central threat. We haven't had that sort of threat exactly since Van Persie, which has lacked over the years. We do need that, but we do need a forward to get in and around. I think that's why Martial likes going out wide. He likes to collect the ball and come in. You can have him around the edge of the box and the touch, like in that area, and then you can bring it in. But with Telles will be like, no, you can stay in the middle. I'll get the ball to you. And I wouldn't mind going back to 3 at the back. I've always preferred 4 at the back. It's what I grew up on. But the 3 at the back, you mentioned La Liga, etc. And La Liga, it's fantastic if you use it properly.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of the Bundesliga, and I like watching Nagelsmann and Leipzig play. There we go. I've said one team that threatens the hell out of me, but I love watching them play. And Nagelsmann plays 3-5-2, but he plays 3-4, but he plays 2 attacking midfielders as wide forwards. Because their creativity is going to come in and they're going to affect the forwards. And I watched the 90 minutes the other day, and it was Schalke versus Leipzig, and the likes of Forsberg and then Kunku playing as 2 wide forwards, and he played Dani Olmo, who is a naturally creative attacking midfielder. He played him as a false 9, and that worked. If we get that in our forwards to get around the box and get the creativity in, we're going to be so much more effective. But it depends on who we play as the back 3. And I like the idea you mentioned of Wan-Bissaka and Shaw as the left and right sided centre backs, and then play Maguire on his own. I would maybe say that to an extent. My only concern is, like, can Shaw realistically keep playing the left sided centre back position for 90 minutes? I don't know. I think I would like to see something. I'd maybe have 2 centre backs in there naturally and 1 full back as a centre back.
Reece, do you not think post-injury, though, his best performances have been in that position?
Yeah, I will say that. Like, he has been great in that position.
It gives him freedom.
I don't think he's effectively a good fullback anymore. I don't think he is. You saw Williams showed him up in games. Williams liked to bomb forward. The only problem is, like, Rashford going so far out wide and then coming in. Yeah. They did not work together at all. Like, you could see when Shaw was injured, we missed him badly, but it was Rashford that missed them more. And that's what I feel is going to work.
Yeah, 3 at the back also allows you to play 2 Nzaibi. So you can play 2 Nzaibi in that system, and you can also then allow Mengi to come in. So it gives you a bit more security because it's a narrow 3. And it means that if your fullbacks do need to come back, you're playing Liverpool, and you need 5 at the back temporarily, it means you can play counter-attack. And we know United love playing counter-attack when they get away with it, but you can't play it every week as a bog standard system. But those 3 in the middle would allow the 2 younger guys to come in the team, and it gets you away from having to rely on Lindelof and having to rely on Bailly. And for me, Bailly should have started maybe in the last few weeks or whatever, but his fitness levels have been problematic. And we saw yesterday he is not the answer, even if he's fit. He's not technically good enough. He's brave, but no, it's part of the bigger problem at Man United.
I'm a big advocate for Diogo Upamecano. I always have been. I've watched him for 5 years. He can play as a back 3. He can play left-sided centre back in a back 4. He is literally my favourite centre back in world football. Like, that's how highly I rate him. He is so comfortable, and the best example is the 0-0 draw against Bayern Munich. He handled that team. He handled a front 3 on his own.
Yeah, he did him.
And that's how capable he would solve our centre back problems, like, in a heartbeat. He would.
I've got great faith in Mengi.
He's going to be fantastic.
There's something about that boy. You know, if you think Mason Greenwood looks like a generational talent at 18, Mengi looks like a generational talent as a centre back. And
Hannibal Megbury as well.
He's a leader. He can get the ball where he can dribble past people from centre back and go like a rocket. And you'd think, and I think that's also why United might not have got a centre back in this window, because they like Nzaibi and they like Mengi, and that's coming out the football club and they're talking about it non-stop. It might be that they're young, but they're the guys who might have the keys to the kingdom. You know, even if Maguire doesn't work, they've got these 2 young lads that they do believe in. And they let Mason go last year, didn't they? They didn't want to play him, and then they'd had to. And Mason scored 20 goals, and everyone went, why have you not been playing him? So I think that might be the case with Mengi. He might get some game time, and we're suddenly all really hot on him, going, this is the guy we've been looking for.
I'm not.
I was,
by the way,
I was-
parties confirmed to Arsenal. Done.
Yeah, that is
That's probably the
great
midfield signing of the season.
Great
It's probably
signing.
midfield signing of the season, 100%.
Great signing.
Like that's
Great
great
signing.
signing. We should have signed. We should have
That's
signed
the
him.
biggest
We should have been
signing
in
this
for him.
window, isn't it? Easily the biggest signing this window.
I'd say
One of
signing
them.
of the summer.
So
I'd say signing of the summer.
quality player that's
Mhm.
moved.
Yeah,
At least
and
in
they're
the
gonna play that three at the back. They're gonna play a three at the back with Thomas Partey in there in that midfield. It's gonna be fascinating. I think these are some interesting points Rob brought up when he was mentioning the lineup last year when we played a three at the back. More often than not, it was to kind of protect ourselves, right? Protect ourselves against the big clubs when they came in. Kind of make sure we damage limitation and then counter. City, I think the City 2-0 is the big one where we saw the three at the back just shine the best for us. You mentioned Pogba, Bruno, and Van de Beek in there as a three. That worries me. I'll be completely honest. I wonder if there's enough energy in there in that midfield three to kind of I know we have three defenders, right? We're gonna have three center backs, but even then, do we have the bite in that midfield that we need? I think we, in my opinion, I feel like we need another.
We're
We need
missing
another.
Not with those three, mate. No,
We'd be missing something there.
Fred's the option that we've left. You know, to
Yeah.
have the tenacity.
I think one of those. I think
in.
one of those three would have to. In my opinion, would have to.
I drop Pogba.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would
I'd
depend
drop
on how
Pogba
you
all
play
day,
it.
mate. But then again,
So
on that money,
Pogba's been a massive disappointment. Massive disappointment from the day he signed. Could you name 6 games where you thought, yeah, he's the answer? I'd sell him.
Personally, no.
You might get some money back for him.
I think I could.
he's never had a
I can name.
sustained run.
I can name 6.
He's never had a sustained run
Well, yeah,
of being
there must
decent.
have been
You know,
must have been for
it's
France
whether or
in the
not he's in the
2018
nose.
World Cup.
No, I could. I
that's why-
think I could
I'd
name
get rid of
6 off the back of Ali being appointed last year for certain. I could definitely name 6 games where he was world class. And
When he's fit,
Where he was
he's
absolutely
statistically
outstanding.
usually the best player on the pitch.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
do the stats
Oh, yeah.
analysis after games,
Yeah.
and it's quite often I get told, especially on Twitter, Paul Pogba's not very good, and then I go and look at the stats, and he's run the furthest, he's had the biggest pass completion, he's absolutely set the attack on fire from a really deep position, and you kind of go, is it true? I think the thing is, you have to. He's a supplementation player. He's not the guy that's going to carry you forward and turn you into the best team in the world.
Well, he should be.
He has to have players with him that work with him. And at United, since he signed, he hasn't had that. You know, he's had a bunch of players. We talked about Herrera there. You know, I'm sorry, Herrera was really popular, but he wasn't the answer for Man United. We just talked about Fred. Fred is not the answer for Man United.
Yeah, but has he done enough? Has Pogba done enough himself?
I don't know what that
not-
means
not
though,
consistent.
because this is
not
what I mean. We want him
consistent,
to be the
That's the point.
star, but he's not the star. He shouldn't be the star.
No, he wants
you
to
know,
be the star.
he want.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
he
guess,
does.
Be the star.
I don't think he does. We
think
don't
You're
that's
really
see
quiet,
this.
by the way, Neil.
This-
Neil,
this-
you're really quiet. We can hardly hear you, mate. That's why
Yeah.
people are cutting in.
Are you,
Yeah.
have you seen the social media stuff about him? He loves himself. He should be having that club on his shoulders and carrying that club like the player.
That's
he wants
rubbish.
to be.
I disagree with that.
I
Why?
disagree.
Why?
I disagree.
Why is that? Why should he
disagree.
carry the football club? He's a footballer. You know, the social media side of it should have nothing to do with it. I always say
No,
this. I get it all the time. I don't care how many
He
pictures they
wants to
take on
be the
Instagram.
star.
I look at the
He
stats.
wants to
I
be
always
the
base it on stats. I look at it and kind of say, right, what has he
That's not-
done?
You can't say it's rubbish. He wants to be a star. He wants to be the star.
Are
of
you-
Man
do you know
United,
him?
And he's not.
He doesn't want
Oh,
to be a
do you know
star.
him?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, yes.
You know, we work with these guys, and he does. He's quite an unassuming guy. He's not a kind of gregarious figure. He's a guy that does his training, works really hard, but he
I'm not
has
saying he
this
doesn't.
image. It's
I'm not
like Jesse
saying anything
Lingard.
about his
You know,
training.
it's the same thing.
Oh,
Like Jesse's
well,
not a great
that's a
footballer,
great
but
comparison.
it's kind of like you look at it, and it's because he takes lots of pictures. It's like, should you be better?
But I
Well,
do agree with what
Jesse Lingard's rubbish.
He is.
when
Jesse
footballers
Lingard's
carry
absolute
themselves.
You're comparing Pogba with Jesse Lingard. Is that the best you can do?
No, because they're social
That's
media
basically
stars.
it.
This is what you're talking about, isn't it? So
That's what I'm trying to say.
No,
If
no,
you're someone like Paul
I'm
Pogba
saying
and Jesse Lingard and you're carrying yourself
wants
as a
to be
football
the star.
celebrity,
Yeah,
You can get that opinion of him.
Yeah, totally. And I think, but fans have to understand, I think, how that works. And United bought Paul Pogba partly because of the commercial aspect. So they whip Pogba out there, yeah? They want him out there because they want to sell shirts. So when United fans don't like seeing Paul Pogba all over social media, most of those tweets don't come from Paul Pogba. They're automated from Adidas. So you have to understand how it works. And that's not Pogba's fault. He's being used by the football club.
Rob, I'm not an idiot. I know how it works. I used to play, and I know a lot of ex-players. I know he doesn't write the tweets. His talent should be a big enough talent to carry the team. I don't give a fuck what he does on social media. I care what he does for Man United, and that's the point. It starts. We're the one paying him over 300 grand a week, so he needs to take his finger out of his arse and start playing because he ain't doing it.
Last season he had what 30. Last season he was our leading goal scorer and our leading assister.
But he's rubbish, supposedly. So sell him. I've said this. Get rid of Paul Pogba and let's see if we're better. Because I don't think we will be at the moment. That's how I look at it. And I'm not pro Paul Pogba.
He created the most chances last year as well.
I didn't say he was rubbish. Rob, hang on. Whoa, I never said he was rubbish. Rewind this back. I didn't say he was rubbish. I said you were comparing him to a rubbish player, which was Lingard.
I was only mentioned because you said the social media aspect. So to me, it doesn't matter in that.
You should apologise for that. You should apologise for that because I never said that.
But you brought up his stardom. You brought up you used that as a negative towards him. I think that's where the comparison of the
it is a negative.
It isn't. It isn't.
I don't think it is.
I don't think he wants to be that sort of player who takes a club forward. He wants to be about a good team. That's what he wants to be. He wants to be a team player, not the star man.
Do you know, Paul Pogba was awful yesterday. Absolutely awful. And he deserves all the pelters he gets yesterday. He was terrible in that Tottenham game, as were 10 other Man United players. He was terrible. But I really don't care whether they're superstars or not, or whether they use Instagram or not. I judge it on kind of, for me, as a journalist, I have to look at facts. And I look at it and I say to myself, is he always as bad as people say? No. And I always think it's somewhere in the middle. Sometimes when people say he's God, the best player in the world, I go, well, he's not that either. You've got to come look at the actual team. And this is why we talk about formations, because I think 3-5-2 would suit him, certainly more than maybe the 4-2-3-1 that we play. But this is why I always talk about his position, because I don't think he is the guy that carries a football club. He didn't do it at Juventus. He wasn't the guy that carried the midfield. He had Pirlo inside him. And I tell you what, if he had peak Pirlo at Man United, Paul Pogba would look great. Yeah, but he hasn't had that. So I think we always have to sometimes just taper it back and take our kind of perception away of Paul Pogba, because it's about what he does. And I agree, we need more from him, but I don't think he's the guy that's going to pull the club through on his own. That's just a personal opinion from what I've seen.
To be fair.
Sorry, mate, I can't hear you. I'm trying to hear you.
Neil, we can hardly hear you, mate. To be fair, let me just quickly butt in, because I actually do. I do completely understand where Neil's coming from, but I don't think this is just a Paul Pogba situation. I think actually the only player who really grabs a game by the scruff of its neck from the first minute is actually Bruno Fernandes in that United side at the moment. And I think it's a bigger problem. I think we've actually got quite a big squad of players who probably need, and this is where I'll come back to my original point, where we need to improve the first team constantly instead of the depth, because I do feel like we've got a team of players and need better players around them. Maguire, for instance, we saw how great he was in his first season, but I still feel like he needs better players around him. Again, it's the same with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He needs a better right winger to play off of. Marcus Rashford potentially needs someone better to communicate with, and also he's not, I don't care what anyone says, I still don't think he's a left winger. I think actually we've got too many number 9s, and I think he is one. I don't think Martial's a left winger. I think he's a number 9. I think the problem is with United is we've been so guilty in putting, is it square pegs in round holes? I think that's the saying. And I think the problem with that is we've got players, and I completely agree with Neil. I think Pogba's absolutely amazing, that we expect so much from him. And I do think at times we get so little back in our return for what we expect. And I think we expect that from him because we're fans of him as well, which is quite frustrating, because I know Neil's watched Pogba come through the youth ranks as well. I did too. Oliver, you probably did. The rest of us did. We knew how much of a brilliant player he was. We knew how much it hurt when he went to Juventus, and then he's come back as a superstar. Let's face the facts. He's come back as a superstar, and when he signed, I also wanted him to grab this team and become the vocal point of it. Now, whether he wanted that or not is a different situation. That when it comes down to social media stardom, I think players and people get painted in the wrong light. Same with these Love Island celebrities, and a lot of them. I think it's such a difficult place, social media, because people are so different to their social media personas. But it would be nice to have more players in that first 11, Pogba as well, who can grab a hold of the game by the scruff of its neck. So that's
yeah.
That's why I go back to what I said earlier.
Neil's
Sorry.
right, to be fair, he's saying, right, he's a big athletic player, you know, World Cup winner. He's a mercurial talent, you know, which he is when he wants to be. I mean, I don't know whether it is just lethargy or maybe he's not quite fit, but I think it's more frustration that he doesn't do it consistently.
But
who's done it consistently over the past 7 years?
Exactly.
Not one player. Not one player.
If you echelon of the top 10 players, a lot of them have done that consistently.
And by the way,
we put him on a pedestal.
By the way, guys, sorry, not to talk over, but also I think this pretty much sums up the Paul Pogba era at Manchester United. We're at the end of a summer transfer window, and we're talking about Paul Pogba.
I'm just thinking exactly that.
Guys, this is the guy. Guys,
would have brought Pogba back.
Probably not, but I mean,
no chance. I mean, that's the whole issue, isn't it? That's the commercial value of a player.
With the Paul Pogba and Maguire issue, look at it this way. And I hate that I have to bring Liverpool into this, but for example, before they bought Alisson and Virgil van Dijk, right? Liverpool were leaking goals like us, just like us right now. They were a shambles back at the back. But Virgil van Dijk and Alisson were the last pieces to the puzzle. Now, invert that, okay, and look back at United and put Alisson and Virgil van Dijk as the first pieces for Liverpool, not the last pieces, and they will look like shit. Sorry for the word. That's the perception that people have. So people go in and look at Virgil van Dijk and say, "Oh, he lifted that team up from 0 to 100%." No, he didn't. He was just the last piece that they needed,
100%.
and that's why he looked so good.
Great point.
Maguire is our first piece. And that's why Maguire is struggling, because everything around him is still a mess. So that's the problem.
And then you go back to that, and exactly what Ben said. Now I said it earlier on the show. It's great to invest in the future, but if you cannot invest in the present, it's not going to work. So, and you're right when you mentioned pieces of the puzzle. I mean, they got Virgil van Dijk and they got to the Champions League final with Karius and goal, I think. Yeah. And then they brought Alisson in, even though Alisson conceded 7, and then that game against Roma, he conceded so many goals, but they saw what he could do because he could command his box, he could command a presence, and he was effectively the final piece, as you say. I'm not going to go and say, Maguire isn't going to solve everything straight away, but he could potentially contribute to something. I don't think he's captain material, but he can certainly organise a defence. He can organise a defence. It just hasn't worked out with who's amongst them. If he's got to be dropped to show that, we saw the cup game, Carabao Cup game, it was Lindelof and Bailly, and they worked together to an extent.
By the way, sorry guys, just so Temi can do what he wants to on this show, we're going to do a whole show on Harry Maguire and this captaincy thing, because I'm fed up with people saying that he's not captain material, because I don't know where we're basing that off of. Putting him on at last season, he absolutely transformed our defence and led us to where we got to. But sorry, Temi, mate, you've got to say a couple of things. That's my fault. I keep pitching in. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. This is a fascinating conversation. Obviously, the window is officially closed on our end. So we have.
Did we win the window?
That's the question I'm about to ask you guys. I need to make sure that I want to get your thoughts on this window. I really want to, out of 10, I'll go last. What you guys think about this window? Was it successful? Do we have the tools we need for this season? Do you feel like we have the tools we need for this season and beyond? I'll start with Neil. Out of 10, what would you rate this window, Neil?
About 3.
3.
On the strength of Van der Beek. Wow.
No hesitation.
Van der Beek. No.
Okay.
We haven't got.
Okay.
signed a decent centre half. That's what we needed. The Van der Beek surpassed that.
Okay. No hesitation there.
I think Cavani will get in a lot. If Cavani was as
We're losing your audio there, Neil. We're losing your audio there, Neil.
If Cavani was that good, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
yep, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, if Cavani was that good, half of Europe would be after him, and they're not. I just don't see that. I think they're trying to sign Abramovich.
That's okay. Interesting. Very interesting thoughts there. Reese, what would you give this window out of 10?
Until these signings came in, I was giving it a 0. Like, even if it was Van de Beek, like, I would have still given it 0, and that's not down to Donny Van de Beek. Like, he isn't enough. We've added depth to the squad, so I'm going to bump that up now, and I'm going to say it's about a 4. We're still lacking crucial things. We still lacked not even one centre back. We now like maybe 1 or 2, but the one position bar centre back I thought was a big problem, and it's going to continue. And it's not Matic's fault. It's defensive midfield. That's going to be a problem, because you need that one player to hold the midfield area around the middle, and like that for me was the centre back and defensive midfield for me were the biggest problems, and they're going to be, if we can fix that, great, by doing it internally. I think a long-term solution by the looks of it is going to be James Garner, who's played very well at Watford. Yes, it's a championship, but he's played very well, and he's very good at youth level as well. He's looked like he's going to be the long-term solution for defensive midfield. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I'd like to see it. But in terms of where we've went right, Van de Beek was the best signing. It's not Traore, it's definitely Van de Beek. But in terms of long-term, depth was crucial. We needed squad depth. Is it quality depth? That's the one thing we need to think about. Are these players good enough long-term, not just the short-term, which is obviously in football, it's more short-term now than long-term, because it's such a results business now that you don't get time as a manager unless you've got the credibility in the game and the people above you say, oh, we're going to give you 5 years, even if you don't win a trophy in your first 3. It's a project, and that's what United is right now. It's a project. So at the minute, I'm going to say a 4. If we had got a centre back, I would have said 7, and a defence midfielder would have said 8 or 9.
Wow. So we have a 3 and a 4 to start out. Abdel, we can't really see your video too much. It's a little darkened out there. But what would you rate this window out of 10?
He always has a power cut at some point during a show.
No, just give me one more.
It's typical Abdel's fashion, this.
Put the light on Abdel.
No, mate, turn it off. We'll take it back.
Okay. I would give it a 5.
A 5. Okay.
Yeah,
and what just real quick, what would your reasons be for that?
Just because we didn't get our first official targets, the targets that we really, really wanted. And just like we said, I really wanted a defensive midfielder, because I don't think our defense is as bad as everyone makes it out to be. And that's a long conversation for another day. But the one area we're definitely lacking is a defensive midfielder. And the right winger that we wanted for almost 2 years now, or a year and a half, we did not get. So I would just give it a 5.
Okay, a 5. Ben, what would you give this window out of 10?
It's so easy to play Football Manager in this instance, but at the end of the day, I think you've got to judge it on what it is. As a fan, that there's what do we want to believe, right? Who do we want to believe are Ollie's actual first choice targets? Who do we actually want to believe that Ollie wants and doesn't want at the club? When we have a look historically, when we look historically at United, a lot of the problems in this window we've had with getting rid of players were basically manufactured 2 years ago, when we gave players who weren't good enough at United ridiculous contracts, ridiculous long-term contracts, and we've rectified a few problems. We've got rid of Alexis Sanchez. Smalling's now gone. We've got Andres Pereira out on a loan again. Will that become a permanent move? Who knows? Dallo's gone on a loan. That's not going to become a permanent unless something happens next summer. And obviously, Igalo will go next year. I'm struggling with it because again, I'm looking at it, and I don't think Tellez fixes our left back problems. I am looking at it. I don't think Cavani obviously is the solution for us. I mean, as much as we can turn around and go, look, at the end of the day, he's a great talent who's out there and can come in and do a job. He's better than Igalo, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, that's absolutely fine. But at the end of the day, we've tried to spend the whole... I suppose my annoyance on this transfer window isn't actually the players we've bought in or the players we've let go and how efficient. It's about how inefficient we've been throughout the whole thing as a club. But I don't know if I'm judging our transfer window on that. Do you want me to judge this transfer? So if I'm judging this transfer window on how we've dealt with it, I'd give it about a 1 out of 10. But if I'm judging it on the players we're bringing in, I'm giving it about I'm just going to give it a 5 or a 6. I'm going to give it a 6 because at the end of the day, what Cavani does behind the scenes, and I said this, I think Thiago Silva is going to be Chelsea's best signing this summer, especially in the short term, because he improves the defenders around him. So if Cavani comes into this club and improves the strikers around him, Manchester United wins games by outscoring the opponent. So it doesn't matter what our defence is looking like in terms of the shape of it. Were we ever going to get a defensive midfielder and another defender this summer? I don't think we were. Don't think they're on his target list. Did we need someone in depth to back up Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba? Yes, we did. And Donny van der Beek is a fantastic player to potentially do that. And he is also now potentially a player to start, so even better. So for me, Ollie's got some players who can improve his squad, but I still don't think that's good enough. And I think the problem with all this, and by the way, Palestri's done apparently it's here we go confirmed. The problem we've got is we haven't improved that first team, so we're not going to be any closer to challenging, but we should still be good enough for top 4. But yeah, so on players we bought in, it's a 5, it's a 6. I'll give it a 6 for the players we bought in. But in terms of efficiency and where we go from here, it's still not good enough for me. We're not challenging for anything this year.
No, that you made a lot of very, very telling points there.
Sorry, that was all over the place, but it's because
I'm following you. I'm following.
I don't want to turn this into a rant about the Glazers or Woodward. I'm trying to talk about just the transfer window, but it's difficult because it's, again, and I'm sure Rob will probably say somewhere near the same. The problems we've had this summer, like not getting rid of Rojo and Romero, who are 2 players who needed to get out of this club, is because of the decisions to put them on those contracts. It's as simple as that.
It's those poor decisions which is long-term issues, which you rightly said, and that's what I like about the opinions of everyone on this channel. Is the fact is, or any United fan, is you don't have to go deep into the board or the owner issues to look at another those issues. What you can also do is just evaluate a transfer window based on what you had to do. Like at the start of the window, we said the likes who had to go: Dallo, Pereira, Lingard, Jones. Unfortunately, he's never going to go. Smalling had to. Exactly. Unless you had a virtual reality on and someone having headphones and you just couldn't hear a thing. And you had Romero had to go purely because the contract situation with the club, and also Henderson's clearly being groomed to go into the first team. So Romero is not going to get game time, and he could go anywhere. He's a good goalkeeper. It's the wages and exactly that.
And also, Reece, sorry, just before you go over to Rob and ask his views, also as a United fan, the fact we've signed so many good players for our academy this window as well should not be overshadowed. And also the fact that we've brought in Palestri and the deal with Traore is there. You've got to be excited because this club is obviously built on young players, although we haven't really gone out and bought young players properly this window for our first team in terms of a Jadon Sancho. We are now going to have some really nice generational talents hopefully coming through our youth system. So that's something we need to watch out for, but that doesn't help what's happening on the field now. And again, just quickly before we go over, Oliver's laptop died, which is why he had to cop out. But he's just sent me a message, asked him what his rating was, and he said it's a 3 for me. Longest window in history, and we ended up with a player that's not coming till January, a 33-year-old striker, a young talent not ready for first team games, a top quality centre midfielder, and a decent left back, albeit he's 27. He's not in with the criteria we're supposed to be in for by the Ollie way. Shambolic and desperate for me. So there you go. There's Oliver's point, and I'm sure Rob will now go and get that ball and knock this out of the park.
No, Rob, I'm fascinated to hear what your thoughts are. Obviously, I want you. I want you to kind of take the totality of it. Obviously the players that are coming, like Ben mentioned, kind of how you felt the club was operating. Take all of that into account and kind of just rank this on a scale of 1 to 10. What were your thoughts on this window?
I think, I've worked on every transfer window for the last 10 years.
Wow.
Every one of them, January and summers.
And it hasn't killed you yet.
Oh, it kills me every year. It's a horrible. I always say it's poison. It's the worst time of the year. We have to do it because it's our jobs, but it's part of the game now, isn't it? And the transfer window. You don't get a trophy for winning the transfer window. That's why I always say first and foremost. United have won previous transfer windows. Di Maria and Falcao. We've seen other signs come in where United fans are celebrating that they have won the transfer window, and it means, Jack, you know what? I look at this transfer window, I would say it's a 6, with the potential being upside of being maybe a 7.5. Now, people might say, what does that mean? Well, I think that this window, Manchester United have said all along they didn't think that they could catch Liverpool and Man City this year. Ole has said that in multiple pressers where he's gone, I don't believe we're close enough, and it's something that we're still building and it's going to take time. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting, Ben, there where you talk about the academy products, because that's one route of obviously improving the kind of ethos and the kind of philosophical side of Manchester United to keep the youth coming through. I think when you look at the signings, for me, I think Van der Beek is a fantastic signing. I think he could be an incredible player for United if we find a way to use him correctly. I think Telles is a decent left-sided left back. I don't think he's particularly great defensively, and I think that might be an issue. We might see that very early on with him. I think Cavani is a good free agent signing on a short-term deal. Not a lot of risk there, and United needed someone to come into that front three when you didn't sign Jadon Sancho. He doesn't do the same things as Sancho, but I tell you what, if he's fit, he's going to score goals, and he's going to make our front three or our normal front three better. He's going to help them, supplement them, and he's going to be giving them an experience of what he does. I just like the idea of these young guys training with someone like Cavani. I think he's the right kind of guy to be the glue in that attack. When you look at the other two signings, Pellistri and Traore, obviously they're a bit wild card. We've seen youngsters come through before. United have paid a serious amount of money to get Traore. Serious money for an 18-year-old who's only played 3 games. The scouting system identified him 6 months ago. Pellistri was identified 12 months ago.
United are claiming they've been scouting him for 4 years, Traore.
Supposedly, but since he jumped out of a pram or something like that. That's what they talk about. We knew him when he was at infants, and we liked him then. They say all this rubbish, but the idea is that he's been on the list for a while. And both these two signings, even though Manchester United fans don't know them, they are long-term targets that United believe they can develop. I always use the example of Ronaldinho and Ronaldo. I remember United fans crying before social media that we didn't get Ronaldinho, and we bought this lad called Ronaldo that no one knew, and he was all right in the end. So I think you have to sometimes have patience. I think this window is an average to good window. Does it solve every problem that United have? Definitely not. No chance. But I don't think Brian Sancho, which would have been the real up signing today, I think we'd have been sat here, the 6 of us, going, Sancho, we're there. I don't think that's true either. I don't think he would have been the player that takes United to the next level in the next game, and then suddenly United are title challengers. I think you have to build from the bottom up. I think you have to be patient. I'm one of those guys that always feels turned on by youth when you're looking at the players and you say, he could have a big upside. I was talking about Mason Greenwood who was 15, and people went, why are you bothered about a 15-year-old? Well, now you can see why I was bothered back then. And we get this with youngsters. United are that kind of club. We should develop youngsters, but we also have to have players who are experienced. And I think Telles and Cavani give us that in the short term. Telles is not that old either. We talk about him being 27, 28. He's not old, is he? It's like, we're getting mad with these things. Oh, your 27-year-olds are too old. It's like, well, you'd never buy anyone, would you? Cavani is old. But I do believe that he's got some legs left in him. So United could terminate him in 12 months if they want to, and that might mean that £200,000 that he's going to earn every week goes to a player like Jadon Sancho if you go back for him. So a good window in terms of numbers, not a great window, not great names. I get why fans are not excited by it, but not as bad as everyone says either. And I think that's the way I look at it. It's not a 1 out of 10. It might have been a 1 out of 10 2 weeks ago if they'd just bought Van der Beek and not bought anyone else. And then we'd have been going, well, that's not enough. And these guys that they've bought, they're good players. They're not great players, but his two youngsters might turn out to be the answer for Manchester United's right-hand side for the next 10 years. That's being optimistic, but they are both very, very good. And United fans should give them a chance, like they gave Mason Greenwood a chance. And let's see what they can do. Trio's not going to come till January, I believe. Is that right?
Yep.
Palestri is going to be parachuted into the team very soon. He's Uruguayan. Cavani's there. I think Cavani will look after him. Anyone you talk to, South America journalists for our work, love him. They're like, he's a really, really, and he's nasty. That's why I keep getting told that. I retweeted someone today who told me he's nasty. I went, oh, what do you mean by that? They just went, he's not a little boy. He'll put his foot in and he'll fight. And he's only small, but he's more like Pavel Nedved. You know, someone described him like that to me. He's a Nedved character, believes in himself, and he can kind of operate with the ball at his feet, dribble past people, and be part of the team, be part of the unit. So let's see.
I watched a couple of interviews for him. He looks like
he's got it up there. He's definitely got it up there. And I think for him to make the jump now reminds me, and I don't want to say his name, but I'm going to say it again. When Ronaldo came to United, one of the things was that United wanted to put him back on loan to Sporting for 12 months. And Ronaldo said, no, I want to come now because I'm ready. And Fergie said, I like that about a player who said he was ready to just come in and kind of challenge the boys that were there. And obviously we played a game against Sporting, which is famous now, where he did so well. And we took him from that because Roy Keane came in at half-time and went, sign that boy up. He's brilliant. I think when you look at Palestri, he could be that kind of player. If he comes in and suddenly hot and we go, wow, we've suddenly got this talent that we can develop like we do with Mason. And we'll be patient with him because I think United fans are, once they've got a talent, we don't kill them. We don't jump all over them. We say, develop yourself and become the player that you can be. So we've got two players there that can do that. And I also think Van der Beek could be a leader. You know, we talk about leadership. Anyone you talk to at Ajax, they love that boy. They're like, he is a leader. He talks to people. He's intelligent. He's not a shouter, but he'll get in people's ears like Bruno does, you know. And I think we need more of that. So a good window, not a great window, but not a window to jump out of from the top floor to think, oh my God, I can't possibly watch Manchester United anymore.
No,
he wasn't made captain Ajax for a reason. Like,
totally.
His intelligence is highlighted in every sense of the point. I've watched the pre-games that Traore played, and he was fantastic for an 18-year-old. I haven't seen much of Palestri, so I'm not going to comment. But I like the fact you mentioned his maturity and he's nasty. I love watching players that are freaking nasty. Just get in, get stuck in. That's what it should be about.
Traore has definitely got something special. Like when you watch him, it's not about watching YouTube videos. It's about watching him in games. He's good. You know, he's got something.
For 90 minutes.
Yeah, and by the time he's 20, 21, 22, we might be going, wow, we've got a £100 million player here. But we have to wait. We have to develop them. Doesn't mean we're closer to City. Doesn't mean we're closer to Liverpool. But is it the right way to build the football club? And I think that's always the bigger question with Man United.
Yes, Jacob OC says we aren't as bad as people think. Palace beat a lot of top 6 sides. Look at their record in the last 3 to 4 years. Spurs are electric in attack. I would disagree with that if you watch them over 6 months. We have been poor, but we have the tools to get top 4. And on that, I'm gonna give my little brief thoughts on this window. I think I'll give it a 5 out of 10. The reason I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. One, I think the way we handled this window was just poor in general. Waiting till the last 2 weeks to kind of get these deals over the line is not the way you want to start out a window. If Telles had come in right after the Sevilla game, if Cavani had come in right after the Sevilla game, they get a few weeks to a few weeks in Carrington to kind of meet the boys. You know, they get integrated a little bit. They're in the match day squads for the first few games. You know, I feel like a lot of us would feel a lot more at ease about these signings. Obviously, the young right wingers that we've just signed, Palestri and Traore, most of us can't really, you know, judge them right now. We're gonna be judging them in 2 to 3 years if we're being completely real. Rob, you mentioned Palestri is going to get kind of pushed into the first team. We're gonna see if he can, you know, quote unquote sink or swim in that atmosphere. My biggest issue is it's not even the players. My biggest issue is, did we do enough to kind of protect Ollie's job? And I'm not Ollie in, I'm not Ollie out. I don't really have a side. Well, I do have a side, but I'm the host here, so I'll keep it as unbiased as possible. But I don't know if he has the pieces to kind of stop the bleeding right now, because we are bleeding. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think we've been slowly, it's been a cut that just keeps on opening. And then we signed Bruno, we patched up the cut. And then again, it just kind of slowly but surely kind of reopened again. Did we do enough to kind of keep us at a pace where we can, be competitive, cut that deficit from 33 points off Liverpool to 20 to 15. Did we do enough to do that? I genuinely don't think we did. Another reason I'm giving this such a low score, I'm being generous giving it a 5. I want to give it a 4, but I'll just give it a 5 because I do like the players we did buy. I desperately think we needed to buy a right winger for right now. I know Pellistri is going to be shoehorned into the lineup, but is he a foolproof guarantee? Going to go up, come out of the gates running. I desperately think we needed a central defensive midfielder, one that allows Ollie to get creative. Does he want to play 2 8s and a 6 as opposed to always playing 2 6s and a 10? I desperately think we needed a center back again. And these are the reasons why I feel like we're kind of off base with it. You know what I mean? We made 5 signings. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. All of which I think are gonna play a part, especially Telles and Cavani. But did we do enough to kind of make sure that we close that gap? We really, really close that gap. I don't think we did.
I just checked the chat as well, Temi. Sorry to interrupt you. Brown Knight said that Man United have now announced Pellistri. They've now announced them.
Oh, wow. Let me see if
Brown Knight commented on it in the chat.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up.
Yeah, they activated his release clause earlier on, so it was done.
Okay, that's
7.5 million.
That's not bad.
7.5 million. It's like it's just good business, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Robertson went to Liverpool for, what was it, £8 million or something?
Yeah.
Something. I mean, I don't have an issue with the price or the profile. I just feel like because it happened so late in the window, it just everything felt so rushed. Unless this, Rob, maybe you can give us some insight. Was this the plan all along? To have this kind of back end into the season.
Say yes, Rob.
It was the plan. Yeah, this was the plan all along. United said, and I wrote about this and tweeted about it extensively. United were not going to make their moves until the last week of the window. Why? Because they believed that the transfer market was going to crash in the last week, because the finances across Europe and across the world in terms of football clubs and how they run has completely plummeted because of COVID. So United said, why should we go out 3 months in advance and pay top dollar for everyone that we want when we can probably get discounts? Now, they've activated a release clause for Pellistri, so they could have done that earlier, I guess. I don't know. Sometimes there is a time limit on those, and it might be that the last week that they could only activate it then. I don't know. That's just me saying that. You look at Traore, he's a young player. He was going to go to Parma. That deal fell through, and that allowed Manchester United to go back and revisit that deal. Sancho was the main target. That didn't happen. We all know that. Cavani, they spoke to 7 weeks ago. That was the first time we heard about it. So they have been mulling over Cavani for weeks. And because he was a free agent, there was no rush. But Telles was the guy. They didn't want a left back to start off with. He was scouted, but they were not going to buy a left back. And the reason why they've gone for a left back now is because of what they've seen in pre-season, the opening weeks of the season. They've realised that they want someone who can attack on the left. He's not the all-encompassing answer to Luke Shaw. But Luke Shaw is probably a better defender, so we'll play in games where United sit deeper and in a low block. But Telles will be the guy that you let go against the teams in the bottom half where you say, right, we need to score goals. So this is the window that Manchester United created, and they are the architects of it. Football fans don't like it, but unfortunately, this is the Glazers. This is how they do their business, and they got players that they wanted. These are not all. I think Cavani, you could say, is a bit of a panic buy, but they did speak to him 7 weeks ago. They didn't just do it yesterday, which is everyone says, oh, it happened yesterday. Van der Beek, people went, oh, Van der Beek, they didn't want Van der Beek. It went, well, they spoke to Ajax 6 months ago about Van der Beek. So they did want him when they signed him, and they'd wanted him for a long time. He was one of Ole's top targets. So all these things, United fans, I know they get upset about it. This is the window that United wanted. The player they missed out on was Jadon Sancho. They got all the other bits that they thought they wanted, and they got 2 young players that could be very, very good.
Can I just
ask you a question?
Just quickly, Temi, you've smashed this, by the way. We've been live for 2 hours now, all for United, mate. Well done, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you for hanging around as well. Thank you, guys. But just quick point, because I think we're going to want to go to bed at some point, and you can ask your question if you want, Reese. But
Perfect.
Someone mentioned earlier on, and someone put in the chat something about United or whether Pellistri can hit the ground running. But I think it doesn't matter who you sign. The question is always, can they hit the ground running? And your risk is far less with Pellistri hitting the ground running than it is 120 million Jadon Sancho. So the same question really surfaces no matter who you sign. And I just wanted to make that point. And I do agree with Rob. Young lad who's got a lot of plaudits. He was playing under Diego Forlan, wasn't he?
He was.
And he comes with a massive amount of credit from Diego Forlan, Manchester United legend, may I just add. What he done against Liverpool will always be in the history books.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, he's a young lad. We love bringing through the youth at United. Look, if we can make ourselves a Jadon Sancho, why not? We're not going to complain about that.
Yeah. And I also think about Jadon is the one thing with him is that he is still young as well. So he's got these incredible figures in the Bundesliga, amazing 20 goals, 20 assists, goals in the Champions League. He's done it. And we kind of think that he's the finished article, and he's nowhere near it. Right. And coming to Manchester United with the way that the toxic situation is with the football club, he could have come and been a huge flop for 108 million. And United are aware of this as well. This is why they didn't want to pay that fee, because he is still young. And even though we see him as this kind of next England superstar, he could have failed. So, if you buy a guy, someone said to me earlier on, everyone wanted Sancho, but they got Pellistri. And Pellistri might be more suited to actually taking the task on, because the pressure isn't there. Go and play your Game Boy. Show us what you're up to. Go and learn next to Cavani, who I guess he worships because Cavani is a hero in Uruguay. It's going to be an amazing thing for him to play with that generational talent. He could become the generational talent next to his hero. So I'm all right with that. I like those things. Those are things that turn me on as a football fan. And I like to go to Old Trafford and watch that and watch it develop with my eyes and go, that's the kind of football club that Man United are. We're not about buying superstars. Every time we've bought superstars, I don't really think it's worked. Even all the way back to Veron. When we bought Veron, and I love Veron, it didn't work because he was already a superstar and he didn't even get in the team. So I don't know if United are that sort of club. It doesn't really wash for us. Look, I don't know why.
You're making great points. I'm curious now. I don't want to harp on Sancho too much, but I think United fans do want to know this. Is it over? Will he ever come to this club again? Do you think we missed out on our window to sign him?
I don't think it's over yet. I think the thing is that if they're going by Sarr in the next week, and they have inquired about Sarr, we know that for a fact. If they buy Sarr, then I think it's over. Because I think you're going to pay 40 million for Sarr, and you're going to develop him in the same way that you develop a 20-year-old Jadon Sancho. Now, it doesn't mean who's better, because people go, but Sancho's better. It doesn't really work like that. It's about who your scouting team thinks fits your project. Sarr would be a great signing. And I think if you got him, you could then say goodbye to Sancho. But Sancho, they will go back for in a year, and they'll go back for him because they believe he is the number 7 that they want to take the club forward. They know. I don't know if you guys actually do know this. You talked about Michael Owen earlier on other shows and stuff. And Michael Owen, the reason why he was signed was because Michael Owen had the biggest selling shirt in the world. His shirt for England at one stage for about 4 years was the biggest selling shirt in the world. So United put him in the number 7 because the logic was they'd sell tons of shirts, and they did. So we laugh at it now and say Michael Owen didn't do anything at United except that goal in the derby. But they put him in that shirt for a reason. And they believe that with Sancho, England players sell double the amount of shirts that foreign counterparts do. So Owen was selling more shirts than Messi even back then, years and years ago. So even Messi and Ronaldo don't get the shirt numbers that top England superstars do because of the marketplace. So they look at Sancho as that player. He would sell more shirts than Sarr, but I'm more interested in the player. And I think they're both great talents, and I would like either at Man United. But 108 million would have been a massive gamble for United. And the Glazers not gamblers. They're not like other clubs. City gamble. They'll buy a certain centre back and bin him the next year. United don't really gamble. They buy players and they think that they're going to keep them for 10 years, and it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, no, these are all great points. We've been on for going on 2 hours and 15 minutes. Rob has been here pretty much the whole time. Abdel has been here pretty much the whole time. Reese has been here pretty much the whole time. It's been a fun conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Ben came in nearing the end, gave us some of his wisdom, you know.
You've all done a long shift, and I've just floated in here.
You know, just floated in, gave us your wisdom, and kind of just, you know, dipped off. But it's all playing. It's all
we
good.
even talked about Paul Pogba, who isn't anything to do with the transfer window.
I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it happened, but
the gift that keeps giving is Paul. He's a gift that keeps giving.
we found a way to do it, but this has been a very, very, very productive show. The comments have been amazing. Guys have been interacting with us. It's been a good time. It's been a good time, and we're going to continue this conversation every single day on this show. We're going to have continuous conversations about what's going to happen in the next few weeks. Obviously Paul Pogba as usual, and how these signings fare within the next few weeks. We have an international break coming up. They're going to get integrated for a little bit, and I imagine some of them might get game time in the next league game we play. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, guys. But everyone who's still on the actually, thank you to all of our contributors who joined. First of all, for this 2 hours, we had multiple people coming in and out. They've all been amazing. We appreciate the time. But real quick before we leave, I just wanted to give everyone the chance to shout themselves out. You know, shout out their platforms really quick, and you know, let the world know about you guys. So, Rob, how about you kick us off real quick?
You Google me, just put Rob Blanchett in, you'll find tons of stuff from my work. Twitter is @_Rob_B, and you'll find me, or you just go to the search function and put Rob B in, and I'm the first thing that comes up. So, that's where you can find me, and you'll find me on various podcasts and one thing another.
Awesome. Ben, shout yourself out real quick.
Here, this is where I am all the time.
The creator. Yes, all for United. All good. Reese, shout yourself out real quick.
Just Twitter below, United for Life 14. After this, I'll get my question, because my question was to Rob, by the way.
Go for it. And then Abdel, shout yourself out real quick.
Just Twitter @Abdel Bahiri. The name should be there down there.
Awesome. And you guys can check me out. Follow me on Twitter @Temi Talks United. You can also check out my YouTube channel. Just search Temi Talks United. It's all there for you to see in its glory. But guys, we really appreciated the time. We are coming up on the end here. If you make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, we are growing. Make sure to continually subscribe, share it with your friends, follow all of the guys who joined us here today. And we're coming, guys. We're coming. Make sure to tune in. We will see you guys very, very soon.